Right, here we go again. Here we go again. Part 3 of our journey through this horrible character's life. It's alright though. Right, instead the square was filled with taxis. They're two ferry home drunks who couldn't wait for the first train. Most of the taxi drivers had their seats pulled back so they could nap. A few of them, though, took their jobs more seriously. They leaned forward on the wheel and watched the 107 building in Center Street. But tonight they weren't watching for potential customers. They were watching with interest a cleaning crew that had appeared about half an hour earlier. How did they know it was a cleaning crew? Because each of the men wore a yellow armband with the words cleaning crew on it. Otherwise, no one would ever associated them with that term. The men were wearing black suits, and the whole time they'd been here, they showed no signs of starting to clean anything. One of the men held a strange measuring device that looked like some kind of pendulum, and the others were around him using it to take readings of some kind. They weren't staying in one place either. They were going all around Scramble Crossing and taking measurements they would then write onto a piece of paper. Right now they were directly under a traffic light, silently watching the pendulum device. It made a sound. A sound.
地点 L2 の8 0.62 メガ G ハイスコアです。
They're talking about it being a high score. One got killed. Yeah. High score. New high score.
先月より38ポイントもアップか。思った通りだ。
So they predicted this, and yet someone still died. But no one in Shibuya that night was watching the cleaning crew that closely, though. As soon as a passenger climbed into a cab, its driver quickly forgot about the cleaners. Whew. And most of the drunks had already passed out and were in no position to look at what was going on around them. The cabaret girls and prostitutes, finally free of the streets that came with smiling at nasty drunks for hours, were getting into taxis to quickly return home. And so no one realized that the government had not announced any plans to clean Scramble Crossing that night. No. Clean, inverted commas. Remove the crime scene, more like. Even after the weekend ended, the furor over the fourth New Gen Madness case, the Vampira showed no signs of slowing down. The corpse of a man drained completely of blood, his skin turned a sickly, inhuman green. It was found in a toilet on the Shibuya Inoshira line. Now, the green color reminds me a lot, again, I'm coming from Steins Gate, but it reminds me a lot of what happened the first time they tried to send something through time. So maybe this guy was just like a failed time traveler or something. Not only that, a photo of the corpse was put up on an online auction site about the same time the corpse was found. The bizarre, cruel nature of the murder meant the media and ad channel were sure to leap on it. Well, of course. I'd expect no less. The message on the auction page also had attracted a lot of attention. There's a shortage of type B blood, just like the advert. Just like the advert. Large numbers of tissue packets advertising blood donations with the same exact text had been handed out in Shibuya. I had a packet of them with me right now. Thinking back, that was strange text. Wasn't an ad for blood donations at all. It was an announcement predicting the next murder. The cops were looking for the part-timers that had been handing them out, but nobody could find much of anything in the way of clues. There was something very different about Vampira compared to the previous cases. There'd been signs of it during the Crucified case, but this latest murder really felt like a theatrical crime, a spectacle meant for public consumption. There you go. Some pundits were suggesting things like bringing more cops into Shibuya or establishing a curfew for anybody under a certain age. But the number of young people visiting the city showed no sign of going down. Scramble Crossing and Center Street were as packed as ever. The net was in an uproar. Several snakes or internet detectives were going around Shibuya and giving live reports on what they saw. And a popular new phrase was spreading among the youth of the city. Whose eyes are those? This guy's gonna flip out. It was spreading not just online but among the DQNs who walked around the streets of Shibuya. On 8chan, people were putting the phrase at the end of messages that had nothing to do with New Gen. This week's Blood Tune didn't have enough Seiritan. Whose eyes are those? The new weapons they added in the latest patch are kind of shit. Whose eyes are those? What kind of whose eyes are those is that? What? New Gen was nothing but a source for fun for the youth of the city, but to me it was an absolute nightmare. Alright, I did say I think we are the bad guys here, because this guy and everybody else has like is paranoid that someone's watching them. But we are watching them. It's exactly what we're doing. They said 3 days after the vampire incident, it started to calm down. Of course, it was still in the back of my mind, but a solid weekend of ESO had helped me forget all the awful and unexplainable things that had happened. Today was a school day, and I'd even managed to make it through the day's classes by sleeping or thinking of rare ESO items. I'd grown up a little. Horrible laugh. Glad it wasn't a voice line for that. And so, like always, I headed to @cafe after school ended. I was happy to see that my designated spot, room 37, was open. It had been 2 weeks since the last time I'd come here. It was the first time there'd been such a long gap. The musty smell of the breeze coming from the air conditioner, the stench of the cigarette smoke clinging to the manga, the pleasant feeling of the reclining seats and the silence punctuated by the snoring of middle-aged men. Felt good to be back.
ルーム37の PC のチャットログを調べさせてもらいました。そこから分かったことは、あなた一人の自作自演。将軍はあなた自身。
Yeah, she still believes Shogun is him. I hadn't seen Yua since then. We were in different grades, and I didn't go to school that often in the first place. So of course we wouldn't run into each other that often. But,
Yua の妄想はすごいよ。
you know, this guy calling someone delusional. Yes, the fucking calling the kettle black is crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy shit. Oh, sorry. Dog got me by the haunches. I felt so bad for her. She must have a terrible mental disorder. He has a mental disorder. It's fine. It was best to just ignore people like that. Things with you had just been a disaster from the start. For the past 2 weeks, I'd been dragged into one mess after another. Until then, my life had been incredibly peaceful. The only person who talked to me was Misumi. Why was all this bizarre stuff happening to me lately? I didn't even want to think about any of it. That dying message was just a coincidence, I decided. I mean, they were all really common words. If somebody with a brain like mine could come up with them, anybody could. I didn't care who that message was meant to reach. No, that wasn't it. I couldn't let myself care. Phone call. Suddenly I heard a noise nearby. I shuddered in my reclining seat, shocked. Sound of a phone ringing, but whose? The place was silent, so the ringing really sounded really loud. I looked around, but I couldn't see a phone. It's his phone.
もしかして。
Just like I thought it was the phone I'd bought several days ago. Trembling, I looked at the screen. Phones were supposed to show the number of whoever was calling you, right? Should I pick up? I don't like talking to people. Who was calling me anyway? I hadn't given this number to anybody. The only ones who knew it were Nanami and the rest of my family. She'd put their names in my contacts too, even though I hadn't asked her to. If the number dialing me was one registered in my contacts, it should display the name instead, which meant it wasn't my family. So how could it be? Phone kept ringing. Were people always this persistent when they called? Your cell phone? I'd never used one before, so I didn't know for sure, but it was really annoying. Yeah, I got nothing to say. They were just barging into my private space and ringing my phone until I answered. That was a violation of my privacy, wasn't it? That's why I never wanted a phone to begin with. I don't think about it that way. But a phone call isn't really seen as an invasion of privacy to many people. But it makes sense. God, the ringing's annoying. Stop. Relieved, I looked at my phone's liquid crystal screen. One missed call, it read. I didn't know who'd called, but I certainly didn't feel like calling back, so I decided to just ignore it. I should learn how to set up voicemail so this didn't happen again. Cell phones were such a pain. Didn't like phones anyway. I mean, they were really weird. How was anybody ever sure that the person they were talking to was really who they said they were? There were a lot of phone scams out there, right? Did people just not bother to check? I just couldn't understand how somebody could talk to someone else when they weren't even sure they were real. I understood the physics principles that let you talk to somebody far away via a phone, but I still found it hard to believe. When you talked on the phone, your voice was turned into an electronic signal. This signal was transmitted down a wire to the person on the other end and then turned back into a voice so they could be heard. In other words, if you wanted to talk to somebody on the phone, your voice needed to be transformed a minimum of 2 times. For a cell phone, first the electrical signals created from your voice were sent to a nearby cell tower, then transferred to a switching center via normal telephone lines. From there, they were sent to the tower nearest to the person you were talking to and then sent via electromagnetic waves to their cell phone. It was an incredibly complicated and bizarre process. If my voice was being transformed into electric signals, could the person I was talking to really hear every single thing I was saying? Exactly the way I said it? Wasn't there a chance that in the process of turning it into an electronic signal, it could end up being turned into something else altogether? For instance, say I call Nanami and instead of my voice being sent directly to her, it was sent to some weird building somewhere. And there somebody I'd never met could pretend to be Nanami. Maybe I wasn't even talking to a person. I could be talking to a computer. That's why talking on the phone was so scary to me. It was way scarier than even talking to someone in person. I'm gonna steal your information. I logged into ESO as Lizelet, and 3 hours passed quickly. Been 2 weeks since I'd logged in as Lizelet, but today I was able to do a great job with the character and was really satisfied. I left for home in a great mood. Center Street was as loud and obnoxious as ever. I always hated it. And thanks to all the stores' lights, it was so bright that it didn't feel like a nighttime at all. At the end of the well-lit street, I saw someone in the crowd and recognized them instantly. I froze. It's gonna be the murder girl. Oh no. Staring at me intently and ignoring the huge crowds around her. In the middle of Center Street, where it's hard to even walk straight among the endless streams of people, she was standing stock still, holding a huge sword on her shoulder. It was a bizarre scene, but nobody seemed to notice her sword. They parted around her like water in a stream, breaking against a rock, moving by without the slightest change in expression. It was the girl I'd seen at the 107 building. She'd been there when I'd gone to buy a new phone with Nanami. The shape of her sword, the Sume uniform, the long black hair, it all matched. This was the girl who'd been watching the crowds from up on the stairs of the 107 building, and I remembered something else when I saw the intensity of her eyes as she looked at me. I'd seen her once at school too. Long shiny black hair that extended down to her waist, oval eyes, a pretty but intimidating face. It was girl B, the girl who'd so rudely asked "who are you?" in the hallway after school last week. Why was she glaring at me anyway? I turned around to see if anyone was there, just in case I was being self-conscious. I thought maybe there would be someone who she knew behind me, but there wasn't. She was looking at me with something that bordered on outright hostility in her eyes. Yeah, it was me she was after. I flinched. There must be a frog. This must be how a frog feels when a snake is bearing down on it. There was no way I could glare back. It was hard for me to even meet her gaze. I had no choice but to look down. She ran away, I thought. Usually I'd take a left on the intersection where she was standing and head across the book fat. But today, I'd go around the front of the station. There were a lot of people there, but it was still better than dealing with some scary 3D girl. She might be trying to mug me with a giant sword. It looked like girl B was alone, but it was possible that she had a bunch of DQN buddies laying in wait, trying to lure me up and beat me up. Okay, so they translated that for us, but that's what they meant to say. Well, I wasn't gonna fall for it. I turned around and couldn't believe what I saw. What?
Oh. Eh?
For some reason, girl B was there. I quickly turned around and looked at the intersection where she'd been standing a moment ago. She wasn't there. I looked ahead of me again. She was still there, holding her sword and glaring at me. When did she get in front of me? Nobody could be that fast. You'd practically have to teleport. How was she able to tell I turn around anyway? Her voice was shockingly clear. I desperately looked around. I wanted to believe that she was talking to someone else. I searched as hard as I could for that someone else she might have meant to address when she said hey. But of course there wasn't anyone. The only people nearby were a group of salarymen. They weren't. They looked towards her for a moment, but quickly realized she wasn't talking to them and kept moving. Suddenly she took a step towards me. That was all I needed to be fully sure girl B was after me.
お前見えるのか
Can you see it? I was terrified. No girl in my 17 years had been aggressive towards me. Tsubaki Kirimiya, known as Tsunko, could be really mean when she was in a tsundere mode. But even she was... But not even she was this bad. Who the hell is this? Also, she was a 2D... Okay. Even as my brain was thinking about tsundere H games, girl B was still getting closer. She was a girl. How could she be this intense and scary? I thought it was strange, but the reason was actually quite simple. The intensity in her eyes, that and the huge sword she was carrying. She had an extremely unusual shape for a sword. In an anime it would have looked really cool, but if you tried to use it in real life it would probably be completely useless. It had to be from a mecha anime or something. Were there any new mecha anime out lately? I knew it was a cosplay prop, but it looked so sharp, so strong, like the slightest touch could take your finger clean off. Such a strange weapon.
と聞いている
Girl B was in 2 meters of me. No. If she swung that sword, it was sure to reach me. I quickly took a step back, but it was too late. She got even closer. Okay, positive delusions, negative delusions, or reality. And then she really swung it. I crouched to the ground with my head in my hands. If I hadn't dodged, it would have hit me right in the head. It probably would have... I'm gonna go positive. But with that speed, it could have given me a concussion and caved my skull in. Please don't hurt me. I was so freaked out that I could barely speak. Okay, let's go positive. Girl B was looking down at me coldly. She was really close. Her bare legs were right in front. Why do I do this to
やはり見え
myself?
るのか
すいません見てないです
She was asking if I'd seen it. No, that's not what she's saying at all. She's asking if you can see the sword, you idiot. But I didn't see them, I swear. I could possibly see them with a little work, but I hadn't seen them yet. Also, I'm not interested in... Yeah, okay, cool. Okay,
嘘
here
だ
comes the delusion.
絶対見たさっきから
本当に
ふん
For some reason, Why are we here again? I just wanted him to not be scared. Why does this keep happening? It just says positive delusion. It doesn't say anything else, man. Okay, whatever. I'm not reading through this. If you want to read this, you're gonna have to pause. I'm not reading through this out loud. Ah, Jesus. There's a foot on my screen. There's a foot in my face. Please. Oh my god. Get me out. Get me out. Get me out. Get me out. Please get me out.
白状させてや
End the delusion.
るほら
End the delusion.
どうだ
End it.
グー
We've had enough of this.
やめ
I've had enough. Nope, 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 nope. No, 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 no. No, no, no. No. Reality, please. Thank you.
答えろ見えるんだな理想度が
the die sword. Came back to my senses and looked up at Girl B's face. She was still wearing her shoes and socks, but she wasn't rubbing her or just a delusion. It looked she wasn't going to be starting something over whether I'd see. Yeah, okay, I thought so. But a die sword, what was that? I'd never heard that word before. It was clear that she was referring to the strange sword-like object in her hands. But why did she want to know if I could see it? I wonder. I decided to nod. Of course I could see it. How could I not? It was huge and she was holding it in the middle of Center Street. I mean, maybe in I wouldn't have noticed it, but Shibuya wasn't an anime town.
お前も集められたんだ
Gathered? Who was gathered and by who? I was here on my own free will at
な。エ
least.
ラーを見たことがあるか
Please to speak Japan. What? What was what I wanted to say, but I didn't have the courage. If I said the wrong thing, she'd probably stab me. I don't have any idea what
見
she's
たら
talking
教
about
え
anyway.
ろ
She turned away after she said that. Her skirt flew up as she turned, and
私は3年の青い瀬の駅前の電車にいる
I opened my eyes, and the girl who'd called herself Senna was no longer there. I stood there in complete confusion, and it was only after I got back to the base that I realized I hadn't understood a single thing she'd said. Well, tough shit. Of all the weeks to have to go to school 3 times, what a depressing day. This guy. Silly sister. I had a strange cry a few meters away from me. It was so sudden my body jerked in surprise. I looked towards the source of the noise and... Yep.
お兄
Oopsie. Nanami ran over to me at incredible speed. I tried to escape, but it was too late. She got in front of me, blocking me, and she'd always been really athletic.
ちょっとなんで妹見て逃げるの
Because you're obnoxious.
そうやってすぐ黙るし
Really, why did my sister decide to go to Sume Academy? Of all the places she could have gone, it was a huge pain from my perspective. Whenever I saw her at school, she'd come over and annoy me.
ねえねえ携帯どう使ってる使ってないでしょ買ってからもう何日か経ってるけど一度も家にかけてこないもんね
Yeah, no shit. He doesn't want to talk to anyone. I tried to walk fast to shake her off, but she followed me, refusing to
家
give
に
up.
生存報告の電話ぐらいしなよそのために買ったんだからどうしても嫌ならそのナナの携帯にかけるだけでもいいからさお母さん心配してるんだからねそもそもちゃんとご飯食べてんのどうせコンビニ弁当ばっかなんでしょやっぱお兄に一人暮らしは無理なんだよ家に帰ってきなよナナがどんな気持ちでお兄の様子見に行ってるか分かってる
Not your problem.
いつも心配でしょうがないんだからね
What is your problem? Yeah, okay. I agree with him on that. Sorry. Why do you have to talk about this in the middle of the street anyway? I'm already in a bad mood and you're just making it worse. But he doesn't say that, he thinks it. So, she'll never know. It's incredibly embarrassing having to go to school with your younger sister next to you. Sure, it happened... No! You gross, disgusting child. A bad mood shimmering between us. I looked over at her, hoping I could get a chance to escape before we reached the school gate. She'd been so mad a moment ago, but now she was quiet and seemed kind of out of it. Her eyes looked like they were drifting out of focus. Or was that my imagination? Her footsteps were unsteady. Just as I realized something was wrong, she stepped out into the road. A car was coming right in front of her. What?
危ない
I grabbed her and pulled her close. The car drove past, its horn blaring. She narrowly avoided being
お前
run over.
何やってんだ
あれ
She seemed confused. Her eyes were blinking rapidly.
ナナ今なんであんなことあれ
She's a total moron. Why didn't she know what she'd just done? Just to be clear, this wasn't Moe at all. Or Moe in the slightest.
何やってるんだよ車にひかれたいのか
車なんて来てた
It's no shot. Of course there was. She's going senile on
ね
me.
えお兄今ヒュンヒュンヒュンっていう音聞こえなかった
Huh? What is she talking about? I hadn't heard anything at all.
その音聞いてたらね、なんだかぼんやりした感覚になって。で、あそこに
Nanami pointed to the corner.
お父さんとお母さんが立ってて、ナナを呼んでたの。
I looked where Nanami pointed. It wasn't my parents there, just some creepy guy. He wore a checkered shirt, fingerless gloves, jeans with the legs rolled up, and white sneakers. The backpack he also wore was stuffed full. He looked like an otaku you'd seen in Akihabara. Yo, can't say Japanese city names. And he even had a video camera in his hands. Maybe he was some kind of peeping Tom.
おい、他人を指さすな。
What a rude little sister she was. How would our parents be anyway? Our home was in Shimo. Yeah, I know. I give up.
おかしいな。確かに呼ばれたのに。
The man looked at us. He was pointing his camera at me and Nanami. You. What was his problem?
行くぞ、ナナミ。
I got scared and ran away, leaving my sister behind.
あ、お兄、ちょっと待ってよ。
She chased. Hopefully this time she doesn't get hit by a fucking car. I managed to ignore Nanami until we got to the school, then headed down the bustling hallway towards my own class. When I walked down the hall, I always walked on the side. I'd always make sure to go at the proper speed, not too fast and not too slow. I make sure to keep my head down so I didn't meet anybody's gaze. These were my 3 rules. Needed to be like the air, invisible if I didn't want to stand out. That was my only way of surviving in this world.
タク
Once again, however, someone appeared who would make doing so impossible. Miss P ran up to me from behind and, as always, gave me a too friendly slap on the shoulder.
おいっす
Oh,
挨拶ぐらいしろってま
at least say
お
hello.
前がそういうやつだってのは分かってるけどよなあこの前 D 組の女子の話したよなめったに学校来ねえけどすげえ可愛い女子がいる
No, you had not.
岸本綾瀬って名前なんだけどよ
Ayase Kishimoto.
実はその岸本に関してすげえ発見したんだ
He was gonna, yeah. No
フェスい
shit.
るだろフェス
But when I heard what he said, I gasped.
その岸本ってのがフェスなんだよ俺マジビビったぜまさかフェスがうちの学校の生徒だなんてよしかも俺らとダメだってことだぜ
That makes sense. For some reason, he decided to lean out a nearby window and look up at the sky with an expression of joy.
運命ってきっとこういうことを言うんだな
We were on the 3rd floor. If he slipped and fell, he'd snap his neck and die. I felt tense just watching him. He leaned forward even further and looked down at the... You see, like... let me just... I don't like when they say shit... When he says shit like that. Because the last time he said shit like that, his entire fucking classroom got into a bus accident.
お噂をすればなんとやらだタク岸本
That was a crazy coincidence. Maybe there was some kind of fated connection between them, like he said. Not that I cared.
よし待ち構えてやる見てろタク俺のナンパ術ってのを見せてやるよ
There was a note of total confidence in his voice. It must be nice to be attractive. Picking up girls was a foreign world to me. Not that it was one that I had any interest in. A minute or so later, her real name was Ayase Kishimoto, right? Appeared. Misumi was right, it was clearly her. I stood back a good distance away and looked at her carefully. It was a shock to see that she was the same age as me. Fez was wearing a Sume uniform and walked slowly with a look of... yeah. She looked like a completely different person than the way she'd been on stage. When she was singing, there'd been a sense of power and motion in her voice, even when she was speaking softly. But now she just looked kind of sad and unapproachable. Misumi must have seen it and decided to deliberately ignore it because he walked right up to her side with the same over-friendly attitude he always used with me.
よ岸本さんおはよう
Ugh, What a brilliant but completely fake smile. How could you act that way with somebody you'd never met before? He was an inspiration, an idol, but not someone I wanted to copy, not in the slightest.
あ、俺三角大輔。よろしく。おっと、初対面とか思ってるだろう。でも違うんだな、これが。俺さ、こないだファンタズムのライブ行ったんだよね。で、その時君の歌声にこうなんつうの？別に俺ミーハーとかじゃねえよ。惹かれたのはさ、詩とか君の可愛さとかそういうところもあるけど、でも何より一番すげえって思ったのはやっぱバンドとしての完成度っつうか、あの音あっての君の歌声っつうの。ちなみに俺も実はバンドやりたいなって思っててさ、よかったらああいういいバンドメンバーを見つけるコツとか、バンドの先輩としての心得みたいなもの教えてくんねえかな。あ、今すぐじゃ迷惑だろうから、そうだな、放課後とか暇？
Please just say it flat out no. Mr. kept talking and talking. The way he spoke was different than usual. And his voice was louder and more cheerful. And he wasn't directly hitting on her either. He was talking about her band as an excuse to go out with her. Never heard anything about Misumi wanting to start a band. Had to be a lie. I understood it now. He wasn't just hoping the two of them had something in common. He was setting it up so that they would. But Face didn't even look at him. She walked right down the hallway as if she didn't hear anything at all.
Nah, 聞いてる?
I'm gonna go negative. We're never going positive delusion again. Face suddenly stopped. She looked up ever so slightly and slowly. And looked right at me. Huh? Me? Oh, then I don't want to be delusional. I actually want to see how this goes. I remembered how it felt like Fez was looking at me at the concert. Over the last 2 weeks, a lot of 3D girls have been staring at me. What's going on with that? Has I suddenly gotten really attractive? No, you probably have a giant sword in your hand or some shit. I looked away, of course, so my gaze only met her for a second.
見つけて早く剣を
See? Faye suddenly spoke. Her words were cold and soft. I couldn't tell if they were directed to me or Misumi.
剣。
そうすれば君は救われる
Fez looked down without waiting for an answer and began to walk once more. She went past us and got into Class D's classroom. Both me and Misumi watched her go, confused. I could tell he was in a bad mood. Despite all his best efforts, Fez completely ignored him. Having someone refuse to even acknowledge you exist must be pretty painful. I was used to that though.
俺はここまでプライドをズタズタにされたのははず。自信なくすぜ。くそ。ちょっと有名人だからって調子乗りやがって。あんな不愛想な女、もう二度と相手にしてやるもん。ああ、うぜえ。だいたい何が剣を見つけろだ。わけわかんねえ。
The sword. Did she mean that thing at the concert? The one that looked like a mic stand? Come to think of it, just 2 days ago somebody else had asked me about a sword. Yeah, that crazy lady. The girl named Senna. She was really scary. I thought she might actually kill me. That sword she'd been holding was shaped differently, but it was similar to the one that Fez had at the concert. Was there some kind of connection between the two? I didn't understand. There was far too much I didn't understand. Real. Shogun, the demon girl, Yua, Fez, Senna, the swords. Like always, whenever I didn't understand something, I made a little list inside my head. Thought about adding myself to the bottom of the list, but stopped. I was just fine. It was everything around me that was weird. Yeah, I was just fine. Was Fez on my side? Was she my enemy? Was that all I needed? That was all I needed to know, but I didn't have the courage to talk to her. And so the day probably ended. Save? Today, I went to Animeite instead of going to At Cafe. Why? To get my long-awaited Bloodtune Seritan post-awakening version figure. Oh, he's gonna see Yua there. When I bought it, I saw an image of Yua's face in my mind for just a second, but I quickly shut it down, that line of thought. There was a Seiritan display at the store, and the figure they had out for show was every bit the quality I'd come to expect from its designer, Yoshio Kijima. Time to head home and stare at every gross. All I had to do to be happy was play ESO, and so why were 3D people bringing all their problems to me? Let's keep happening. As I forgot all the fez and the swords and was happily returning to the base, Yua's gonna show up. Oh no. I ran into a pair of men who looked out of place, just 50 meters or so from home. I tried to avert my gaze and avoid them, but one of them was clearly looking directly at me. Ooh. The one who spoke to me first was an unimpressive looking middle-aged man, the kind you might see at a betting track. His hair was a mess and he had stubble on his chin. His suit was tattered and his necktie wasn't tied right. His leather shoes showed no sign of ever being cleaned, and he just looked like an overall loser. For some reason, he was wearing a cheap 100 yen paper. He was waving a 100 yen paper fan at himself, which only added to the impression that he was one of life's losers. He had a dopey look on his face and a really stupid-looking grin. But when I met his gaze for a second, I saw no traces of that stupid grin reflected in them. There was nowhere to run. As I stood there unsure of whether or not to answer, the two of them walked over to me. Just giving him this ID. Took out a black notebook with an ID on the flap and showed it to me. It was a police notebook like you saw on TV shows. They'd finally come for me. There's only one reason I could think of. The crucified killing. There was absolutely no pressure in his voice, but the other detective with him, the younger one, had a stern look on his face and had quietly moved to block my path. I started to sweat. If I said the wrong thing here, they might think I was the killer and arrest me, please no. I gave up on running and nodded very slightly. I wiped the sweat off my brow and nodded.
3番目に起きた通称貼り付け殺人事件も当然知ってるよね。その目撃者を探してるわけよ。あ、ちなみに君、名前聞かせてくれる？
I gulped. Was this whole thing a Kome's trap? Maybe they were just pretending to be police, trying to get me to reveal my private information so they could use it for something bad. Maybe they were working with the demon girl.
答えてくんないのかな？
There was no way to be sure either way. What should I do? If I gave them a fake name, they might arrest me.
個人情報保護法とか気にしてる？おじさんそんなに信用なさそうに見えるかな。
That friendly way you're talking to me is just an act, right?
西条匠
In the end, I couldn't come up with any brilliant plans to talk my way out of this, so I decided to just tell the truth.
西条匠くんでいいかい？本当に？
What the hell did that mean? I was nice enough to give you my real name. Why are you acting like that?
いや、これは失礼。今のは気にしないで。
His laugh was a little too loud to be real. It echoed throughout the quiet street. I want to go home.
その制服、水明だよね。何年生？
Did I have to tell him that too?
悪いね。聞き取れなかった。おじさん。
2年生。
ああ、2年生ね。どうも。で、西条さん。聞きたいことってのは、先月の29日の午後6時から10時頃にかけ。
Was this one of those alibi things? Did they suspect I'd done it? No way.
いや、別に君を疑ってるわけじゃなくてさ。その時間にこの近くにいたなら怪しい人物を見かけたとか何
The way he talked was starting to make me mad. Maybe it was some kind of special technique he used to anger the people he was talking to. But I'd seen someone suspicious. I'd gotten a clear look at them. I wasn't sure if it was safe to tell him though. What if I did and the demon girl came after me? For now she seemed to be leaving me alone, but she had Shogun with her and he could see the future. She must have all kinds of crazy powers herself. It was the only explanation. Yeah. They don't want to catch a murderer. The only explanation is that they are working with the bad guy. Of course. If I told the police about the demon girl, she might find out about it with her clairvoyant powers. And she might come to kill me.
西条君、今日はそんなに暑いか。
Huh? My pulse quickened. If I didn't answer, they were sure to think I was the criminal. But I felt like if I said I hadn't seen anything, they'd see right through me. The man waved his fan at me. Cool air ruffled my hair.
もうすっかり秋だ。汗かくほど暑いとは思えんけどな。まあ体質ってのは人それぞれだしな。
It was strange to hear that from a man who carried a fan around, but he was right. It wasn't that hot today. It was a pleasant temperature, if anything. I wiped away the sweat from my brow with my sleeve.
僕はやってない。
おお。
His eyes changed. I knew I'd screwed up, but I didn't know how.
何をやっていないんだ？
He suspected me. I had to tell him. So tell him! I stared at the cover of the manhole near the feet as I yelled.
見たんです。貼り付けの現場、そこに女がいたんです。で、血まみれにして死体の前に杭がたくさん死体に突き刺さってて、あれ500本は絶対超えてた。異常だ。
Crazy.
死体がハリネズミみたいになってて、女は僕を見てよかったって笑ってた。あの女は悪魔だ。人間じゃない。ニュージェネの母親には人よしとかすごい超能力とか使う。
Only then did I realize that the two detectives were looking at me with their mouths wide open in shock. Maybe they didn't believe me. I fell silent again.
悪魔か。なるほどね。ああ、分かってる分かってる。貴重な情報だ。
僕を警察。
その前にその女の年は分かる。服装とか。水明って水明が。
その制服着てた。
つまり西条君と同じ学校の生
He
徒。
thought for a moment and then grinned. It was hard to tell if his next words were a question or a whisper.
何年生だろうな。その女子高生は。
What year do you think she was in?
西条。
Shijou.
わからない。
じゃあなんて名前だと思う？
わからないよ。僕。
その女の身長、体重、あとついでに3サイズについ
Who
て。
was this guy? Is he making fun of me? How the hell would I know any of that? I don't have the magic power of determining a girl's measurements just by looking at her, like the hero of some harem
なるほ
manga.
ど。黙ってるってことはわからないってことだね。結構。
Thank you for your
俺は
cooperation.
本部に戻って検討しないといかんな。
先輩マジ
The
っすか
older detective made a motion with his hand to silence the younger one, and then shot him a meaningful glare.
西条君、
なんで
They didn't believe me after all. They thought I was crazy and going to accuse me of doing it.
だって悪魔だっけ？そいつ
Oh, I see. Good. They believed me. No, they didn't. I'd feel so much better if the police were protecting me. Of course, maybe even the police couldn't do anything about a demon, but it was better than being all alone. Feeling a little relieved, I took out my new phone and showed the detectives the number. The younger one copied it down.
忙しいところありがとうさ。君の身の安全は。じゃあまた何か聞きたいことができたら電話するかもしんないんだ。イルスとか使わないでくれよ。今のところ警察にとっては君は
Eh?
君の目撃証言は事
Your
件解決
testimony
の
is a big
重
clue
要
that
な
might
手が
help
か
us
りにな
solve
り
this
そうだ。
case. Okay.
じゃあな。
The two of them bowed and quickly left. The younger one was looking back at me and whispering something to his partner. The old one was walking quickly and ignoring him. I let out a deep sigh. Wow, that was nerve-wracking. I'd never been interrogated by a real police officer. It was pretty scary. They seemed to believe me, maybe. I hoped the police would catch the demon woman. But everybody said the police were incompetent, right? So I shouldn't get my hopes up too much. Only then did I notice how thirsty I was, so I bought a bottle of soda from a nearby vending machine. It's because you've been sweating up a storm.
覚醒バージョン残すエロすぎ万物じゃんかだがそれがいい 顔かわいいよ顔。原作再現度はいまいちだけど、プンプンと漂うエロスが木島よしおら。上着キャストオフとか、この角度からじゃほとんど全裸にしか見えんひょー。髪の動きがいいよな。覚醒バージョンは髪が命って持論があるわけだが、間違ってなかったな。さて、それではお待ちかね、パンツいってみようか。V ゾーンの作り込み。
I don't want to read it, man. Japanese internet expression meaning too high.
いいよ、シワの付き方リアルだしってこれ数字これセーラタン5作目にして早くも最高傑作爆誕じゃねえ。これ以上すごいのなんて出せないってマジで。やっぱ木島は神。
Gross. Is that the new one? Yeah. I carefully placed my new Seritan next to the PC monitor. Just looking at it made me grin. It's a moment of pure joy. Logged onto Atchan to share my thoughts on the Seritan figure. When that was done, I checked my email and looked at Frepara to see if I had any new friend requests.
マイフレ申請来てるじゃん。誰これ。セーラコミの人か。はいはい、ゲイですよ。
Just when I was ready to log into ESO, the eyes feeling. It's the same intense gaze that I always felt. Whose eyes are those? Okay. Damn it, not now. Did I first start feeling that gaze? I'd totally forgotten by now. But it kept getting in my way. A lot of things were happening that would interrupt my daily life, but the gaze was right up there with Nanami for being obnoxious. Okay, time to play the game. Time to play the I'm not turning around that easily game. I'm fucking... You need to turn around. I kept my eyes locked on the computer monitor and tried to think of a cool line.
出てこい。僕の目をごまかせるとでも思ったか。甘いな。
One of these days I'm gonna use delusion and it's gonna be reality and I'm gonna flip out.
バレちゃった。
当たり前だ。僕の後ろに立つなと何度言えば。
Huh? Had the owner of the gaze finally shown herself? Was that possible? Should I turn around and see who she was? But if she attacked me as soon as I did... she sounded pretty cute, but what if she was a terrible monster? Don't judge by voice. No, if she was a monster, she might be getting ready to attack me right now. If I didn't turn around, I wouldn't even realize I was dead. Should I try saying something else to see if she answered? Could have just been a delusion, or maybe I'm just been hearing things. You know, like how I always hear my Seritan figure talking to me like that. I tried to say who's there, but I cut myself off. Wouldn't be smart to say anything to set her off, right? Might provoke her into attacking me. I was seeing so many awful things in my delusions that I couldn't move. What should I do now? Maybe I was just being an idiot. If there was nobody there and I was sitting in my chair, scared to death of my own delusions, I'd look like the world's biggest moron.
あれ、タク？
He's gonna turn around. It wasn't a delusion. I wasn't hearing things. There was somebody behind me. Fuck. Okay. Shocked, I turned around. Who the fuck? Oh, it's Murder Lady. Murder Girl is here. Save.
どうもどうも。
Who the fuck? Okay. It was the demon girl. It was the girl I'd seen during the crucified killing. She was right there sitting on my sofa. For some reason, she was grinning and she looked at me. Oh no, oh no, oh no. She was here to kill me at last. It was because I'd talked to those cops. She'd used her clairvoyant powers to see me doing it remotely. Now she'd snuck into my room without making a sound so she could watch me cry and scream and beg for mercy before she killed me. I knew it. Don't kill me, I tried to scream, but I was too scared to get the words didn't come out.
コンビーフ？
Da, 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 da. She stared at me, head tilted, and recited a strange spell. She must be speaking in the demon language. She was going to curse me. Tried to hide under my desk, to put as much distance between us as I could, but I ended up panicking so much that I hit my head on the edge instead and crumpled to the ground in pain. Did you just knock yourself out?
何やってるの、タク？今すっごい音したよ。コツンって。
She still had a happy smile on her face. But it was just a trap to get me to drop my guard, I was sure of it. The second I let my guard down, she would come for me, or maybe that spell a second ago had cursed me. In a few days, my body could start sprouting blood from all its pores, and then I'd die.
頼むよ殺さないで
I curled up into a little ball on the floor, cursing the detectives I'd met earlier.
警察？
それに話してもちっとも信じてもらえてなかったし
The detectives had said they'd protect me. If that older guy was doing his job right, he'd surely send an officer to protect me. But then I realized. I told the officer my phone number, but I hadn't given him my address.
石井？
She suddenly struck a pose, like she was at attention. And then even more strange, she made the sound effect of a hand flying up to it. Up to attention with her mouth. Is that another demon spell?
独り言はやめるべし。
No talking to yourself. What?
殺さないでとか警察がどうとか私には何のことかさっぱりだよ。
She didn't know? Is this kind of a joke? Was this her way of telling me to forget that anything had ever happened? What was this girl thinking? Did she come here to kill me? Clearly not,
ほら、
because you'd be
立て
dead.
る？立とう。
She got up from the sofa and offered me a hand. Her expression looked so kind, and up close I could tell she was pretty cute. Wait. What had gotten into me? Yeah, what is getting into you? She was a demon, she wasn't pretty cute. Okay. There's no guarantee she's a demon. But how the fuck did she get into your locked container? I'm fucking throwing hands. Equal rights, equal fights, in-game. She was a murderer. She'd used Yua and Shogun to try and set me up. And now she was here to kill me herself. Couldn't let myself believe her. I learned my lesson with Yua. Never make the same mistake again. I didn't take the hand she offered me. I couldn't let her smile fool me. It was a demonic temptation, but I gave into it. I'd die. Don't believe in anything, don't listen to anything anyone says.
だって見たんだお前が人を殺してるとこ
あのさタクそれかなりひどいことまさか殺人犯呼ばわりされるなんてねははは
What's she doing here?
ニュージェネの
Like the other four times.
殺すんでしょそれとも岩とか将軍とかがいる場所に連れてって
ユア将軍誰それ
Maybe the three of them were going to work together and kill me when I was helpless. She clearly knows
そ
fuck
んな
all.
のやだ
But who the fuck is she? Please, I want to know.
うーん
I'm stressed.
じゃあね私を殺人犯扱いして
I knew it.
そんなビビらないでよいちいち私がへこむ
お願いだもう二度と誰にも喋らないからだから見逃して
もしもーしタクちょっと落ち着こう
She kept calling me Taku like we were friends. How does she know my name anyway? She knew my name when we first met at the scene of Crucified. How did she know where the base was?
当然でしょあなたの名前を知ってるのは
She read my mind. She had magic clairvoyant powers. I knew it. That's how she found my name and
タ
address.
クって結構独り言多いよね
Yes,
前
he
から
does.
思ってたことだけど
Always? So when was always? Wait, was I talking to myself? Couldn't tell. Really, was I really talking to myself, or was it possible that she was lying? Was it possible she read my mind?
タクの名前を知らないわけないよ私物覚えはそんなに良くない方だけど友達の名前くらい覚えるよ
So they are friends. Who the fuck is this?
それともタク私のことバカにしてるそりゃ私テストの点数はそんなに良くないけど面と向かってそういうこと言われると傷ついちゃうな
Was she crazy? Wait, how could I be sure she was the crazy one? Was I crazy? Or was she? Someone's crazy. Someone's crazy. Someone is definitely crazy. I just don't know who's crazy. Am I
もし
crazy?
かして
Maybe I'm crazy.
転校生
そういえば近いうちに転校生が来るらしいよスカチン先生が言ってた
We were talking past each other. The fear that I could be killed at any moment was starting to fade. But instead, another type of fear was slowly working its way through my heart. What, that you're crazy?
も
しもし、その顔はまさかまだ信じてくれてない？
誰だ？
Who are you? She was the demon girl, a murderer.
タクこそクラスメートの顔を覚えてないんだ。ひどー。
Classmates? Not just friends, but classmates.
でもまあしょうがないか。タクはあんまり学校来ないもんね。だからって私の存在丸ごとなかったことにするのはどうかと思う。
Who is this? Who is the chick? What the hell?
私の名前本当に忘れちゃった。
Is she one of the people that died on the bus?
そんな
Because
こと
that
ないよ
would
ね。
send
知っ
me
てるで
flying.
しょ？あなたは知ってるはず。
Okay, give me memory. Me.
リミ。
そう正解。賞金50円プレゼント。
Eh?
私崎畑リミです。なんだ、やっぱり覚えててくれたんだね。
Who the fuck is this?
よかったよかった。
This must be an error. Why? Was it true? Was the demon's girl name really Rimi? Why had that name just come to me all of a sudden? Why did I know who she was? Had I just forgotten and we really were classmates or friends or something? No, that was impossible. No, it's possible. I never even heard the name Rimi Sakihata. Well. Had to be a fake name. I'd say Rimi and she'd just play along with it. This was all just part of a game. The only 3D girl I knew who would talk to me was Yua anyway. And Yua worked for her. In a flash, I suddenly understood. The Sakihata girl was using the same trick Yua had used. She was being all friendly, knowing that I wasn't used to talking to 3D girls. Then she'd set me up for a trap. And of course, I didn't remember the faces of all my classmates. I just wasn't interested in trying. But I was sure I'd never seen her in my class. Wasn't I? No, I couldn't be sure. Every minute I spent at school, I spent at my desk, either enjoying delusions while pretending to sleep, or staring at the desk, or pretending to read a textbook. I don't remember any of my classmates' names. I'd never cared enough. Which was it? Was what this girl saying true? No, it didn't matter whether or not she was a classmate. The thing I was sure of was that she was a murderer.
もしかして本気で思い出せないの？さっき頭打ったせいで記憶喪失になっちゃ
Now
った。
she's accusing him of getting amnesia. Okay. The demon girl reached out a hand towards my head. I ran under the desk again to dodge it.
変だよ。じゃあ大地に聞いてみて。
Daichin.
そしたらタクも思い出せ
Who
る
the
かも。
fuck is Daichin?
大地だよ、大地。三角大輔。
She knew Misumi's name, and she called him Daichin. You wouldn't do that unless you were pretty friendly with
う
him.
ちょっと待ってね。
She went over to the bag next to the sofa. It wasn't that... Huh? It wasn't one that I owned, and took out her phone.
大地。よし、オッケー。はい。
She tapped it a few times and handed it to me. When I didn't take it, she chuckled and grabbed my head.
ほら、固
On
ま
my
って
hand?
ないで。
Head or hand? What is she grabbing? Oh, hand. Okay, makes more sense. She forced the phone into my hand. The demon god's hand was soft and a little cold. I was expecting it to be as cold as ice, but it wasn't. I guess even murderers have warm blood running through their veins. Actually, it was more girly than I expected, so my heart started to race a little. No, I couldn't let her fool me. She was a demon. I couldn't let her tempt me. I wasn't into 3D girls. Seiritan give me
タ
power.
ク、携帯使ったことないの？
She was
電話機
close
は
to me
耳に当て
staring.
るんだよ。
She took my hand and brought it up to my ear. I looked at the phone's LCD screen. The phone said Daichin on it, and it showed it was already calling him. I put the phone up to my ear. I could hear the sound of the ringing. But then the sound cut off, and instead I heard Mitsumi's voice. Oi.
Oh.
The person on the phone didn't give their name. They must have been outside somewhere downtown, because I could hear the hustle and bustle of the crowd.
なんか用か？リミ。
Rumi Sakihata. Mitsumi knew her? Now that wouldn't be that surprising. Mitsumi was a natural-born lady killer. I wouldn't be surprised if he dated her before, and even if he was dating her right now. Yeah, well, Mitsumi's a dog. The question remained, was the demon girl my classmate?
タク、大地に出た？
She was staring at me again. Damn it, why did she have to be so close to me? Turned my back to her and spoke into the phone.
僕西条。
なんだタクか。リミと一緒にいるのか？
Why didn't he find it surprising at all? It almost sounded like he expected us to be together.
またリミに振り回されてるのか？大変だな、お前も。でもよ、一つだけ言っていい？
Give you one piece.
そろそろ自分の携帯変えよ。
You have your own phone. It was possible that she was having me call somebody with a voice similar to his to fool me. The person with the Misumi-like voice was working for her, maybe, and trying to trick me. I was starting to get suspicious of everything. I didn't know what was the truth and what was a lie. Assuming the demon girl was willing to put in the time and effort to set up a trap like that, what kind of trap was it specifically? Wouldn't it be faster for her to just kill me here? Or was there some reason that I had to be deceived, even if it meant doing so in a really roundabout way? Wait, could it be some kind of trick Misumi was setting up? This girl was his girlfriend and not a classmate at all, but someone he just sent to make fun of me. No, wait, not a chance. How would you explain the crucified murder then?
で、タク、俺としては野郎からの電話なんてあんま嬉しくねえんだけどな。
It certainly sounded like Misumi. The more I heard them talk, the less likely it seemed that the person I was talking to could be anybody but Misumi.
でも教えてもらいたいのか？なわけねえか。
Nah, of course not. I wasn't sure where to start. I could feel someone looking at me from behind. The girl was staring at me, and the prickling on the back of my neck was still there. What kind of face was she making? I wanted to look back and see, but I was too scared.
なんなんだ？今俺も女
その
なんだよ。早く言えって。
クラス
ああ、うちのクラスがどうしたの？
いる
何が？
女子
あ？
崎畑って名前の
I was stammering really bad, but I finally managed to explain it to him. He suddenly fell silent. There was no answer. But I could still hear the bustle of the crowd, so he hadn't hung up. Why wasn't he answering?
お前さ、ゲーム脳じゃねえの？
What is he talking about? And anyway, it wasn't true that video games damaged your brain.
それってリミのことだろ？リミの携帯でかけてきてるくせに何バカなこと言ってんだお前。わかった。お前もしかしてリミに何か指図され？じゃあリミに伝えといてくれ。お前。あ？何が？
本当にクラスメ。
お前な。
Listen!
たまにしか学校来ねえから忘れちまったか？
Did you just forget since you never come to
俺はと
school?
もかく。お前は
I
一年の
only
時から
joined
同
her
じクラス
class this year, but she's been in your class since the start of
この
school.
前だって
The three of us went to see a movie just the other
映
day.
画見に行ったじゃねえか。
Ah, it's not true! Something is wrong. Something is fucking wrong, and I don't know what it is. I couldn't understand what this Misumi-like person was saying. The demon girl and I had been in the same class this whole time. The three of us went to see a movie the other day. When was the other day?
俺がお前とダチになったのだって最初はリミに付き合わされたのがきっかけだったしな。
What? Who's this?
俺と同じでリミも物好きだからよ。
She's a weirdo like me.
ニートのお前を気にかけてやってるのは世界広しといえど
あ
俺とリミぐらいだぜ。あ、それは言い過ぎか。
Not a single one of the words coming through the phone felt real. How could they? None of the things he was describing existed in my memories. I couldn't accept that they'd ever happened. What was this Misumi-like person was telling me wasn't true? It wasn't real. If something really happened, you remembered it.
っていうかリミって
君は
おいおい、マジでおかしくなったか。俺の言葉
I couldn't take any more, so I hung up the phone. I suddenly realized I was having trouble breathing. The sweat coming off my brow showed no signs of stopping. If anything, it was getting worse. I could feel it dripping off of me and landing on the ground below.
たく汗びっしょりだよ。
This chick has to be fake. The demon girl looked genuinely worried as she handed me a handkerchief. It was a cute red one with no pattern on it. The handkerchief had a slightly floral scent. I didn't take it. Instead, I tried to get straight in my head what was going on. It didn't work though. It just started getting suspicious of everything.
で、大臣はなんて？
She sighed in slight disappointment as she put away the handkerchief before a victor's smile came across her face. It was as if she'd known the answer from the start. I didn't have the strength to answer her. Who was this woman? Just my classmate? Or a monster? I didn't know. Maybe I was just crazy. Thinking back to my chat with Shogun, I couldn't be sure that somebody wasn't controlling my body. Or maybe there was some kind of accident that took my memories of this Rimi Sakihata girl away from me and left my other memories intact. What the hell was wrong with me? Amnesia? Sleepwalking? Something else?
大丈夫？体辛いならソファーで横になる？
The demon girl spoke kind words to me. I needed to be especially careful around anyone who said kind words to me. Anyone who'd be nice to a creepy otaku like me definitely had some kind of ulterior motive. I shook my head no, and then forced myself to look up. The sweat got in my eyes and made my vision blurry. Her face was closer than I thought it would be. What color were her
な
eyes?
んで
何何？
ここにいる。
なんでってタクに会いに来たんだよ。もしかして勝手に部屋に入ったこと怒ってる？でもそれはタクがちっとも返事してくれない
Okay.
から悪い。結構長い時間ノックしてたんだから。
What? No, you didn't! I handed back the phone as I watched her take it. I asked again.
なんで
今度は何？
ここにいる。
Why had she visited me if she came here to kill me? Wasn't she doing anything?
ここに来た理由？ね。
Her hand went to her bag and she took out a handout.
進路希望のプリント持ってきてあげたの。
I took it from her. It said post-graduation plans with 3 blocks below for first preference, second preference, and third preference. Was that really it? Was that the only reason?
帰ってよ。
It's rude. I didn't want anything to do with her. It was a terrible idea to get involved with 3D girls. This was some kind of trap. Don't listen to her. This isn't real. This is a video game, a really buggy game. Look at all these weird plot contradictions. It doesn't make any sense as a story. Now that is real. But we'll keep going. Eyes
僕
closed.
に関わらないでよ。
If you're not here to kill me, then just go away. I'm me, not somebody else. Maybe some other me was friends with Rimi Sakihata, but that has nothing to do with the real me. I put my head in my hands and closed my heart to the outside world. I shivered trying to imagine a delusion where the girl named Rimi Sakihata wasn't in my room. I soon heard the sound of the door opening, which told me that the demon girl had left. The only light in the... Wait. That ended the delusion scene. And I did put negative delusion in. So was that... Oh, fuck this game. The only light in the dark room was the pale glow of the monitor. It was a screensaver featuring... This man is cooked. This man is cooked! He's for real cooked. Rimi Sakihata had been here in this container house just half a day ago. Okay, so within the process of like 10 seconds, it's now been half a day. Sure. It's getting close to 5 a.m. Takumi's daily life revolved around playing video games until dawn and then passing out on the sofa. Right now, he was curled up in a cramped position on the sofa. Carrot, what you don't understand is that chick is the chick that he saw at a murder scene. The chick knew his name. He has no clue who she is. He also has someone accusing him of writing messages from a different place and having no memory of it, which is weird because those messages came from the future. So, yeah, things are going on. Gonna have to check the old videos if you want the backstory. Sus. Yeah, Hando penis sus. He had one, but he didn't sleep in it because it was piled too high with CDs and manga volumes. All those CDs are hentai, by the way. All of them. At first, he'd just been too lazy to clean it off, and then at some point, it began to function as a storage shelf. Ever since then, he'd been sleeping on the two-person sofa. An awful moan slipped from Takumi's lips. His body was soaked with sweat and his eyelids were twitching. He might have been having a nightmare. His expression warped with pain. He kept tossing and turning as he lay there, almost falling off. Suddenly his eyes opened wide and he stared at the ceiling. His eyes were bloodshot and the eyeballs themselves seemed to be twitching a little. He stood up without blinking even once and staggered over to his PC. He didn't sit down. Instead, he moved the mouse while standing up. The screensaver on his monitor disappeared and was replaced by his desktop. His expression, illuminated by the pale light of the monitor, was vacant and empty. His body trembled and shook from side to side. Drool pooled and fell from his mouth. He looked exactly like the typical sleepwalker. He opened up his internet browser in a trance and went to the page for Atchan. His movements were slow and uneven, but there was no hesitation in his hands as he went directly for the news board's new gen threads. We're almost 60 in all, and Takumi opened every single one. His gaze was locked on the screen and he was typing on the keyboard without looking down at it. Okay, so he does probably have a secret personality, but I still don't know how he's managing to interact with his secret personality live. But it is based on Steins Gate, which is time travel, so there's got to be some sort of time travel shenanigans happening here. He typed a message into each of the 60 threads. It's going to be whose eyes are those, right? Right? Yeah. And it's from Shogun! He is Shogun! Oh. So he is Shogun. So the other chick was right all along. Is that going to be the end of the chapter? Don't do me like that. Don't do me like that. Okay, we're not there yet. The next day I headed to the hospital. Yeah. Do you have recollection of that? The last time I hadn't been able to get the assurance I wanted, but today I was going to make them tell me I was sane. But you're not sane. Clearly, you are not sane. You have no memory of anything. I was going to have the doctor remember me. I was going to tell him that I was his patient until 4 years ago, and then say I was going to have him listen to everything I had to say. I wasn't the crazy one, it was the demon girl and Misumi. I knew that's what he would tell me. This hospital opened at 8, earlier than a lot of them. That's why I decided to come right on time. Only to find the lobby sofas packed with old people. How? How could there be so many people here when it had just opened? Had they all cheated and got here before it opened, somehow? That's not fair. I was angry, but I didn't have any choice but to wait. And now you're gonna be bored for like 3 hours like last time. It was an hour of waiting time. Well, it was an hour of waiting that I realized I should have made an appointment. But very shortly after they called my name, and I was relieved to see that I wouldn't have to wait as long as last time. Yeah, last time you had to wait 3 hours and fell asleep and had delusions and then fell asleep again. But the doctor waiting for me in the exam room wasn't Dr. Takashina, but a white-haired old man I'd never seen before.
Takashina sensei wa?
The nurse standing behind him, Hazuki, I think, answered apologetically.
Takashina sensei wa mou imasen.
Isn't he here?
もういないというか、過労がたたって先週末に倒れてしまわれてね。
Yo, shame.
今週はそれでずっと休みだよ。
Oh no, my one ally. Wait, was it really overwork that had made him collapse?
陰謀だ。
西条さん
She must have poisoned his food or sent him a threatening letter to stress him out. It was the demon girl's doing. She was trying to isolate me. I had no intention of letting anybody but Dr. Takashina talk to me, so instead of getting an exam, I fled from the hospital. Okay, back home. Yeah, back to the storage container.
くそ
I leaned up against the fence on the roof and looked up at the sky. Shibuya's sky was an ugly
病
color.
院にはもう行かない方がいい
The last time I went to that hospital, they made me take a test on the presumptions that it was for the character. So I answered it like the character, and then it actually diagnosed my delusion levels. Like my delusion levels. And this bottom part, it's calling me out personally. There's too many coincidences in this game, I promise you. Making me feel like I'm going crazy. The demon girl's net was closing in on me. Maybe there was nowhere for me to run. Maybe that detective I'd met yesterday was actually a fake and working for her. Maybe she'd used him to test me. I mean, the timing was just too good to be a coincidence. She'd showed up in my room right after the two of them had approached me. She was a demon after all. She wasn't human. She could easily control somebody's mind. I didn't have any proof of this, of course, but I also didn't have any proof that she wasn't a demon. So I just had to assume the worst if I was going to survive. Real. Always assume the worst. Don't do that. Wasn't there anybody on my side? Everybody felt like my enemy. Everybody felt like they were working for the demon girl.
助けて誰か助けてよ
Why didn't I have anybody on my side? Why was no one helping me? Why did this have to happen to me? Maybe that's because you don't ask for help. I felt so lonely. I wanted something to support me. Someone to protect me. Something... Yeah? Someone to protect me, something to protect me. Anything, anybody who could offer me help. And then boom! Find the sword.
早く
Yeah.
剣をそうすれば君は救われるわ
Suddenly I remembered those words.
剣
If this was a video game, the plot was probably involved me being a hero who needed to find a legendary sword to defeat the Demon King. Oddly enough, I'd heard the word sword from the two 3D girls lately. And there was still a chance that Fez was on my side. Girl B Senna, I think, was likely on the side of the demon girl from the way she'd acted, though.
剣
The
だ
sword.
剣を手に入れるんだそ
I
うすれ
whispered to
ば
myself as if I was in a trance. I was willing to cling to any hope now, no matter how small. If I could just get the sword, I would be released from this nightmare. I didn't know that for sure, but I had to hope. I didn't 100% believe Fez when she said it would bring me salvation. But I didn't have any other options. I decided to look into it and see what I found. I wish I could see what he's searching, but it always tells me afterwards. I ran a search online. First I checked to see if there were any anime characters where... any anime where characters had swords like the ones Fez and Senna had. But I didn't find any. I'd most likely seen that coming. I always kept an eye on upcoming anime. There were 30 or 40 each season, so it was pretty hard, but I always watched the first episode of each series and then decided if I was going to continue it or not. 30 or 40 each season! 30 or 40! 30 or 40! We get like... Do we get 30 or 40 every season? I guess we do. Like, no. Yeah, I guess. Like if there's 5 animes that come out a day, it's 35. I feel like a lot of anime episodes come out that I just never look at. And of course I could search anything that was on satellite TV using MewTube. Yeah, this was before YouTube had its copyright up people's ass. If you count the harem isekais. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So there was no way I could have missed one. But I hadn't seen any anime with weird swords, especially ones with such a distinctive shape. I would have been sure to remember them if they'd showed up. And I didn't remember seeing anything like them at all. Unless, of course, I'd been controlled by someone else when I watched the show. Next, I decided to search for the swords themselves, not anime.
ほとんどがゲームの攻略サイトじゃんか。
Yeah, yeah. Some of the swords that came up with the result in the results were ones I recognized well, like Iso's I wasn't getting anyway. I needed to find that sword and fast. I had a feeling that Senegal had something more had said something more specific. What was it? Remember, or you'll be stuck in this nightmare forever.
答えろ。見えるんだな。ディソードが。
The D Sordoga.
ディソード。
Right, the D sword. I searched for that word in his deluded search. A sword with a negative darkness unleashed on the world called the D sword. A fictional weapon said to be created in the ancient ages of Europe by Gladiale. What? Glade? I don't know. The king of wicked hearts made by feeding on humanity's negative emotions. They eventually came to devour the hearts of the Black Knights who took them. What makes them distinct from other sacred or magical swords is that they are said to be... Oh, and then this guy. I bought a D-sword blog of a board guy. I bought a sword. It's called a D-sword. I heard... I love how freaking weird it is. Town Vanguard is my heart's oasis. You don't have many something... Okay, I can't see that. Stores as weird as that place outside of Akihabara. Just two... But these two links felt like the path that would save me. I wish I could see when they were typed, because the time, the hidden stuff in the time is kind of cool. Desperately trying to calm my excitement, I tried to click on the top one first. Yeah, error 404. Shit, it was down. Damn it, why did it have to be a dead link? No, I needed to calm down, I just had to go back and click on the cached version. There we go. The page had an illustration. It was based off of a description in an old text, supposedly. It's the same text as last time. Also, can we point out? I'll bring the mouse in. From Wikipedophilia. Wikipedophilia. Okay.
元ネタは伝承か。
So it's from some old legend.
でもセナって女が持ってたのに比べるとこっちは随分地味だな。
Weekly pedophilia? I guess that's how they escaped the copyright of Wikipedia. But it's kinda crazy. Why did it have to be such a minor weapon anyway? Why couldn't it be Excalibur or the Blade of Kusanagi? Something else big and famous. No, this wasn't the time to complain. Whether it was famous or not, if it was going to save me, I didn't care. I decided to look into it a bit more. Okay, second link. It's so much worse. It has to be so much worse. I mean, this guy is special. Let's just say he's special. Shame. He suffers from high anxiety. And we are staring at him. Carrot, you are part of the problem. We are staring. The phrase, I bought a D-sword, stood out to me. Could you buy D-swords? Or die swords? I don't know which one of you would call it. I don't even have words. I don't even have words. Do you see the title of this blog? I don't even have words, okay? I just don't have words. I won't put any more attention. But they certainly didn't have the same writing style as Shogun. Yeah, that's because you are Shogun. Either that or they were a different person entirely, or the person writing the blog was deliberately disguising their writing style. What is this? The Kamaitachi phenomenon, an extremely rare phenomenon where what look like blade cuts will suddenly appear on the skin. The Kamai is a legendary wind monster located in the... Okay, cool. Okay, let's see the person inside. Most people used to refer to their voice actor or character in an anime or game. It could also be sometimes used to refer to the staff or company organization. This term is said to come from a line in a certain famous manga that goes, "There is no person inside." Okay. So what is this guy writing? Town Vanguard in my heart's oasis. These days, you don't see many stories of that place, but Akihabara shops aren't really my style. It's either parts or porn with those guys. That's not me, you know? Used to be so many cool, weird places in Shibuya. Bet you can tell my age from me saying this. But they all disappeared as time went on, okay? There was no way to tell from here, so I stopped reading. Also, this game came out in 2008. Just take note that this game came out in 2008. I'm pretty sure. The original time that this game came out. I'm disappointed how incredible they made a Town Vanguard like a toy store for little kids. Anyway, enough about the past. Who came up with the Nord Die Sword anyway? Lol. It's pretty big and it looks like somebody put some designing into it. But the only reason it could... Okay, I can't read past the text. Town Vanguard was evidently in Shibuya. It felt like too much of a coincidence, or maybe I was being paranoid. What does this thing say? Could have ended up in a place, Town Vanguard. Cashier likes that stuff. She even made a special corner for fantasy weapons a while ago. Best viewers? Wow, best viewers. That's crazy. Kinda crazy. Kinda crazy. Anyway, goodbye. Yeah. Maybe the reason I'd run into two girls carrying dye swords in Shibuya was that the place selling them was here. Weird things got popular with small subgroups of people here in Shibuya all the time, right? Okay, just keep scrolling down. Nope. We're not going to see the rest of that page. I searched for Town Vanguard, but I couldn't find the store's page. I did find a page with a map, so I downloaded it. If they didn't have a public page, they probably didn't want an online, didn't have an online store either. I searched the Taboo auction site too, but didn't find anything. I didn't have to go to the store directly. I had to go to the store directly to see for myself. I didn't really want to leave the house, but
手に入れなくちゃ。手に入れないとダメなんだ。
at this point it felt like the one good option I had for fighting off the demon girl. I didn't know what exactly I would do once I got the sword. Didn't have the courage to try and kill her with it or anything. But something inside me made me think that if I got the sword, maybe I'd just feel a little less afraid. Carrying a big sword makes you less scared. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. That was it. The dye sword was like a good luck charm. Something to keep me going. There was something strangely compelling about it. Could never be me. Big sword would make me more scared. That someone's gonna come fuck with me. Because I'm carrying a big sword. Yo, that guy looks depressed as hell sitting on that chair. The store was somewhere near Cat Street. Oh, Cat Street! It looked like. The Cat Street was a twisty street that ran alongside. Sword ain't gonna do shit. Yeah. But you can believe it does. Cat Street was a twisty street that ran alongside Meiji Street, the main connector between Shibuya and Harajuku. You know, Carrot, I gotta get you reading these. Because I can't read Japanese names and I'm not going to Japan, so I don't need to. I'd heard once that it was originally a river that got filled in. There were a lot of theories as to why it was called Cat Street. Some said it was because there were lots of strays there. Others said it was because the street was as narrow as cat's forehead. A common expression in Japanese. Not that I cared either way. Gonna sound kind of racist. Well, it's a good thing that you don't have to say anything then. That's my job. To sound cock racist in game. Only sound though, I'm not racist. Don't put that on me. Cat Street was a good distance from here. Take at least 15 to 20 minutes to get there. A bike would get me there faster, of course, but I didn't have one. Yeah, whenever the Japanese names come up, I try and dodge them as much as possible, because you're about to see why. I didn't want to go near the station, so I opted to go through Shoto and cut across Miyashita Park. That one's not so bad. I walked a little fast across the bridge over Meiji Street. You know which one I always struggle with? This one. Hold on. And it comes up a lot. Where's that word? The word for shatin. Somewhere here. Is it here? Oh no, they explained it outside of this. The hikikomori. People that, the lock-ins. The shatins. Phew, I was finally here. I was in such a hurry that I was starting to get frustrated on how long it was taking. Cat Street was compared to Center... was, compared to Center Street, much quieter and felt more like and Shibuya. All the stores were selling those clothes, or sare clothes, the kind I'd never had any interest in. Dai sheeple. Japanese net slang meaning hip or fashionable. You do be wishing death upon people. I could tell I was out of place as I walked down the street and got more and more upset. This was totally outside my usual territory. There were a lot more couples than there were in Center Street, and I could tell they were all window shopping, lol. Trying to show off because they didn't actually have any money, losers. I almost regretted coming, but I choked those feelings down and told myself that I needed to get the sword. You see, Carrot? You see. Why I hate this guy. You'll notice it, but I don't like him. Okay? I don't like him. I walked as fast as I could, face glued to the map, trying to avoid making eye contact with the people around me as I headed to my destination. He's a professional hater. He do be a complete... Anyway, he calls everybody else a degenerate, so... That's how you know. Town Vanguard was down a narrow street off Cat Street. One step down a side street and the whole place felt very different. The alley was narrow, cramped, and dirty. Much too small for a car to travel down. The buildings were all old traditional wooden houses, or empty stores with their shutters pulled down. And all the shutters had graffiti sprayed on them too. You see, even in Cat Street looked fancy, its luxury brand stores, that was all just fake. The dingy alley was the real Cat Street. Behind the facade, it was nothing but garbage and run-down old buildings. Of course, I didn't like the backside any more than the facade. I wasn't any more at home here than on the main street. I only had one home, Iso. Iso is basically WoW. Town Vanguard turned out to be smaller and gloomier shop than I'd expected. I could tell why the blogger who'd mentioned it called it underground. There was a sign reading open, but it certainly didn't seem busy. Going inside felt really hard. I was too much of a wimp to go into a fast food place all by myself. How could I go into such a creepy looking place? I wanted to go home. No, I needed the sword. What was I supposed to do? Come on, I'm literally, I need to get through this game so I can go to Steins Gate, because I love Steins Gate and I really want to see the store's material. But this guy, I can't with this guy. I went back and forth outside the shop for a while. I think I don't like him because he's a more delusional version of myself. I think that's why I don't like him. But he's way more delusional than I am. I am still delusional, don't get me wrong. But I'm not that delusional. I went back and forth outside the shop for a while. There was absolutely no one else in the dark alley. I spent 30 minutes wandering around trying to muster up the courage to go in, and not a single soul came by. Many times I almost felt brave enough to go in, only to give up at the last second. But I couldn't give up and go home empty-handed. This was the only place I could get a dye sword. But my instincts weren't willing to let me go inside. I had a delusion where the shopkeeper came out to meet me. Of course, she was a cute maid and she spoke to me in an anime voice. She knew exactly what I wanted and offered me a dye sword with a friendly smile. This, you were way more socially adept. Yeah, well, now maybe. Maybe not in 2008. But, yeah. The other thing is, this guy's memory, like the beginning of I think it's the beginning of part 2 actually, when we're going through his memories. And he literally doesn't get to go on a field trip, so he wishes that everybody going on the field trip would die. And then the next day, the bus has an accident and his teacher dies. I don't know anymore. And the whole beginning of the game and the intro and all of that, it goes around like what if you thought you were God as a delusion and then that delusion ended up being true? So is he God? No, he can't be. Like, I refuse to believe that he's such a bitch. Anyway, he's evil? I don't think he's evil, though. Like, I genuinely don't think he's evil. He's just sad. And that laugh. Whoo! Shoo! Let's not even get me started. You can read it. He's not saying it right now, but you can read it and you know it's fucked up. Also, the beginning of the show has him getting killed by that pink-haired girl that he doesn't remember. So, yeah, I'm lost. Maybe he is the bad guy. Maybe I'm the bad guy. Maybe he's the good guy. Maybe everyone's the bad guy. That's what this. Yeah, don't type that. Don't type that. You haven't heard the laugh yet. You're not gonna type that after you hear him laugh. Oh, fucking, I didn't read. What did it say? Everything would be so much easier if that happened, I told myself, and maybe my wish was heard by someone because a 3D girl did come out of the shop. I'm telling you! He's OP. Her outfit wasn't anything like I expected, though. It was some kind of ethnic clothing. It looked really flashy, but the girl herself seemed really gloomy. Ethnic. What does that mean? Okay, I'm probably about to see. She had long hair done up in an afro, tied up in a bandana with a strange, eerie design on it. She said she'd gotten sick of watching me wander around outside her store, and so came out to check on me. My delusion hadn't become reality. Well, of course, that could never happen. Before I knew it, she dragged me inside the store. Despite my reluctance, I hadn't even had time to say no. I'd ended up inside. I'd overcome the first hurdle at least. But what if the store was actually owned by the demon girl and the whole... Bro's racist. Yeah, ethnic clothing. Ethnic clothing is a crazy, crazy way of describing something. And the whole die sword thing was a plot to lure me here. I could be killed at any moment. I looked around the dimly lit shop. There was no other customers. The air was stale and there was a thin haze. It smelled like a mix of cigarette smoke and mold. 5 minutes in here and I'd probably be ready to throw up. I could see what looked like merchandise, but I couldn't tell if it was for sale or not. It was all placed randomly throughout the store, and to tell the truth, it might have all been garbage. It certainly didn't have price tags on it. And I realized after I got inside that there were a lot of adult porno toys too, and there were things you saw a lot in rape-style H games. I tried not to look at them. In-game. I'm reading this. If I get banned on YouTube or Twitch for using either of those fucking terms, that's not my fault. I'm just reading what's on the screen. This place must have been some kind of adult knick-knack shop. Despite how eager she was to get me inside, once I was past the door, the woman quickly ignored me. She sat down on a stool next to the register and smoked a cigarette. So this haze was at least partially her fault then. Hadn't even been inside for a whole minute, but a combination of nervousness and embarrassment, as well as how sick I was feeling, was making me sweat hard. I wanted to get out of here as soon as possible. Time to find the die sword. Fast. I walked towards the back, looking at the shelves as I went. I quickly found the fantasy weapons corner that the blog I'd read had talked about. This one part of the store stood out from the rest. There were several toys lined up carefully in a display. The toys themselves all looked cheap. Actually, I realized they were mostly just different colored lightsabers. Some of them were so cheaply made that they were obviously fakes. I wasn't sure if they would even light up. The light-up shurikens that the blog had talked about were sold out, it seemed. That was kind of a surprise. But there was one thing mixed in with the lightsabers that was very clearly different from the others. And it's gonna be some Jas. Yo, that looks like Excalibur. Just one look at it and I recognized it was a die sword. It was just like the one I'd seen online. I picked it up. It was lighter than I'd expected. Was it made out of soft plastic? There was no blade. The edge was smooth. I ran my finger across it, and of course, it didn't hurt at all. Compared to the other ones that Senna and Fez had, it didn't have any weight or a complex design, and it certainly wasn't sharp. Maybe it was a fake. I was a little worried, but this was the only thing in the shop that could possibly be a die sword. Did this even light up? The one Fez had been swinging around at the concert had some kind of glass embedded in the blade, which had lit up with a pale light. It was really cool. But there was no glass on this one I was holding. Maybe I should just give up on buying it. This die sword was such a piece of junk that I was ready to give up even after coming all the way here. But...
見つけて早く剣を
I can't be the sword
そ
though.
うすれば君は救われる
I remembered Fez's words. Right, if I didn't buy it here, I wouldn't have any clue as to where to get another one. Maybe it just looked cheap, and when I recognized its rightful owner, it would suddenly transform into something with incredible power. Now you see, that's what I thought, but I doubt that's true. Maybe I'd just seen too much anime and manga. Exactly. I've definitely seen too much anime and manga. But Senna and Fez both had dai swords that seemed to possess a strange strength. Maybe this sword would turn out to be the same. What should I do? As I stood there uncertain, the clerk came up behind me. She grinned a gloomy smile and pointed as the dai sword. 10,000 yen, and I'll throw in a little bonus, she whispered. I was so stunned at how cheap it was that I couldn't believe my ears. I had some decent savings built up from my RMT business. 10,000 yen was cheap enough that I'd have to do was pass on buying a single figure. Yeah, the thing that makes this guy's delusions worse is the fact that he's actually insanely good at the game that he plays, and he makes money off of that shit. So much so that he lives in that container and can pretty much fund anything that he wants to do. He also only goes to school 2.5 times per week. When I heard the price, and also that it was the last one that the store had, I bought it immediately. The bonus was a cheap bangle bracelet, total garbage. Yeah. The true nightmare began once I bought the sword. Town Vanguard didn't ship, you had to walk home with anything you bought. Even if it was a toy, the idea of carrying this huge sword across the middle of Shibuya was enough to quench any excitement I felt. I'd already paid though, and the clerk steadfastly refused to return my money. I'm like 90% sure that we get to see what that character looks like in the other games, but just not in this one. This was going to be incredibly humiliating. I had to walk down some of the most fashionable streets in Tokyo holding a giant toy sword. Of course, the DQN couples and well-dressed ladies all chuckled at me as they walked by. Damn it, I wish they'd all die. I did home, delusions filling my mind of me swinging the sword wildly and murdering everyone in the street. Saber. Ah, back to the fucking tool shed. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold up. Something is going wrong here. Just give me a second. There we go. Okay. I was finally home. I started running once I'd gotten close, and I was out of breath by the time I got up to the base. The cold gazes of the people I'd passed had really stung. I don't know how Senna had managed to endure this humiliation. It was something I could respect in a way. There was no way I could do it. Suddenly I heard a sound coming from the other side of the base. Was someone here? I froze and gasped. I remembered the smile I'd seen on the face of the demon girl who'd called herself Rimi. Maybe she'd come back. This time maybe she'd kill me. What should I do? Run? I could sense the presence of someone in front of me. The setting sun cast someone's shadow on the ground. It was clearly the silhouette of a woman. I quickly raised my dai sword, holding it in my hands like this. I realized what a piece of crap it really was. The one Senna had held a strange power, an intensity about it. But mine didn't seem to have anything like that. Maybe it was a fake after all. It's definitely not real. And could I really fight with this thing? No. Even if it was real, I still couldn't actually fight someone with it. Thank you for realizing that eventually. Holding it in my hands, it felt weirdly heavy. Maybe I was holding it wrong. It didn't feel like something I could actually swing like a weapon. The shadow began to move. It was coming closer. But you close your eyes. Like, that is the worst. Okay. Thrusting the sword out in front of me at a random angle, not that I expected to hurt anybody with it, but I had a faint hope that the sword could maybe, just maybe, help me. But then nothing happened. My foe didn't say a word. Maybe the dai sword had annihilated the demon girl with a single swing. If so, that would be incredible. Oh, it's Nanami. Opened my eyes, but instead of the demon girl, I saw Nanami. She was looking at me with contempt in her eyes. The tension drained from my body. I collapsed where I stood. This was just awful. She was an awful sister. What kind of awful sister likes to entertain herself by scaring her brother? All of them. Who the hell did she think she was anyways? This is why 3D girls would always be inferior to 2D ones.
別に脅かしてないよ。いつもみたいにお兄の生存確認しに来てあげたんじゃん。なんでナナが30分もお兄のこと心配しながら待ってなくちゃいけないわけ？ナナの貴重な時間が無駄に消えてっちゃったじゃん。お兄のバカ。
Worry? She was worried about me? I refuse to be fooled by such an obvious lie.
で、どこ行ってたの？出かけるなんて珍しいじゃん。携帯にかけても繋がんないし。
Yeah, this guy hates cell phones.
そもそも
Cell phone hater
そ
too.
の剣何なの？もしかして買ってきたの？
She was staring at the sword looking a little confused.
あ、わかった。アニメのおもちゃかなんかでしょ？ほんと、お兄ってオタク。しかもこのおもちゃ、ちっとも似合ってないよ。
If she can see it, it's clearly
さっ
fake.
きだってびっくり腰で構えちゃってて。思い出したら笑えてきた。
I ignored Nanami and opened the padlock on my room, then tried to head inside.
ちょっと無視すんな。
She's in the way though.
帰れ。
You know I'm alive, now go home. She was always making fun of me and did nothing but complain. Every time she came here, if she really hated it that much, then she would just leave. I certainly didn't want her here. I'm gonna be honest. That like mouth design, the first time that I saw it was Rick and Morty. But maybe I just wasn't paying attention.
あのね、
Listen, I came all this
わざわざ様子見
way
に来てあげ
to
てんだ
make
か
sure
ら
you were okay.
もっとありがたがってよ。
Would kill you to show a little
せ
gratitude.
っかくお土産まで持ってきたの
A
に。
present? She pouted at me.
お土産？
Yeah, you care about the present, huh?
そう、お母さんが持ってけって。ほら、
She handed me some mandarin oranges, 10 or so, in a red net bag. Wasn't a great present. I'd eat mandarins if there were any lying around, but they weren't exactly a favorite of mine.
というわけで、ナナもちょっと一服したいから一緒に食べてあげる。
帰れ。
Go home.
もう、妹がお土産持ってきて、しかも一緒に食べてあげるって言ってるんだよ。もっと喜びなよ。
This guy's a dick. He also sent his sister out to die. Like he knows there's a like serial killer in the area and he doesn't want to walk her to the station. Or walk her home. He's like, yeah, go home by yourself. Good luck. I mean, to be fair, he's like a year older than her, I think. But it's not a good excuse. What was there to be happy about? Why would I want to eat oranges with my little sister anyway? She probably just wanted to eat some herself. She always was a big eater. She used to always eat my food too. We got into fights about it all the time. Nanami went inside the base, ignoring my protests. I had no choice but to follow.
お茶ある？あったかいのがいい
Got
な。
any tea? I'd like something hot. Of course not, I only drink soda. Real! Nanami sat down on the sofa and took out an orange. I sighed and set the die sword up against my computer desk. I didn't need the bangle, so I tossed it off into a
What?
corner.
それ何？
Nanami quickly picked it up off the floor.
へえ。
That's a pretty cool
かわいい
bangle.
バングルじゃん。
Yeah, that's
これも買ってきたの？お兄にしてはいいセンス。
cute. It was just a cheap thing, probably not worth more than 500 yen. Nanami had just had terrible taste. I ignored her and took a seat at my desk, grabbing an orange.
ねえねえ、なんでこれ捨てちゃうの？
だっていらないし。
じゃあさ、これナナにちょうだい。
はあ？
いいじゃん、どうせ捨てるならさ。たまにはお兄ちゃんらしく妹にプレゼントの一つでもしてよ。
For real? It's not a present, it's just some junk.
勝手にも。
本当？やったー。
That probably means so much to her. Yeah, she was certainly easy to please. As soon as I gave the okay, she quickly put the bangle on her arm. Such a cheap little sister, enjoying such a cheap gift. And there's the laugh again!
お兄、どう？似合う？
全然。
あ、そう。お兄のバーカ。
I gave her a present, right? Why was she treating me like this? What kind of little sister calls her brother a jerk? Where did she learn to do that? Go play 100 H games and learn how to behave properly. He literally believes that people should act like they do in hentai.
ヒヒ、バーカ。
She was smiling too. I was getting really
これ
angry.
気に入っちゃったからもう返さないもんね。っていうか、お兄からプレゼントもらうなんて
That's what I'm saying.
初めてのような気がする。 しょうがないから大事にしてあげるよ。
Whatever, nobody asked you to. I didn't even buy it for you.
もう用は済んだんだから。僕は暇じゃないんだ。邪魔するな。
Suddenly she looked upset.
そんな言い方しなくてもいいじゃん。それにみかんまだ食べてないし、お茶もまだ出してもらってないよ。
She's still asking for tea!
おめえに飲ませるお茶はね。
She glared at me, shoulders heaving with rage. Eventually her eyes started to tear up.
わかったよ。そんなに邪魔なら帰る。
Shame, man. What a fucking dickhead. Like, he's such an ass, though. It's fine.
お兄のバカ。お兄なんてみかんの皮で目つぶし食らって失明しちゃえ。あとバングルは返さないかんね。バカ。
Also, isn't that idiot not jerk? I don't know. A high-pitched yell echoed through the room as she grabbed her bag and flew out the door with incredible speed. Phew, at last. The storm was finally over. Every time I talked to Nanami, I felt exhausted. Why did she keep coming when she knew how much I didn't like it? Read the room. Oh, what's happening?
ファーストメルトは期待以上の結果に終わりました。GE レートの上昇率は当初の予測からわずかな誤差があった程度です。
バイオリズムコントロールも順調なのか。
Graph which shows the cyclic changes in a person's physical, sensitive, and intellectual states. It's commonly said that on a day where people's biorhythms are high, they're in a good mood and able to focus and perform, while on days when they're low, the opposite occurs.
渋谷の GE レートは他のエリアと比べて高い値を持っていると同時に安定性に。
それゆえに意図的に操作しやすいということか。そして渋谷にいる人々のバイオリズムを急激に引き上げることもまた。
実験結果についてはレポートをご参照ください。納得していただける成果を上
Experiments?
げてお
貴様が成果を出すのは当然だ。そのために高い金と多くの人材を
実効性については理解しているよ。この数ヶ月だけでも我が会の信者が数倍に膨れ上がっているからね。
Is this all just a fucking government act?
それではプロジェクトノアは次の段階へと進ませます。よろしいですね。
コードサンプルの件はどうするのだ。すでに3人分は確保したとはいえ、目標数値には達しておらんではないか。
いかにも。数値達成のためには最低でも
サンプル保持者は集まりつつあります。あとは採取するのみ。
ならばその件は任せる。
信仰の救いあれ。くれぐれも慎重にことを進めるように。
はい、心得ております。
So now it's a world-ending fucking phenomenon. That's gonna be the end, right? They normally do a cutscene like that. Nope. Okay. Give me more. I think it's time to sleep. Might be time to sleep.
そろそろ寝るか。
I put back a yawn, looked over at my PC's block. It was showing 5 a.m. I'd spent the whole night grinding in ESO and hadn't gotten the rare item I wanted. What? That says fight hours, right? Not 5? Fight hours. I'm sure that says fight. Oh, 8. Sorry. Things covering my screen. 8 hours of work and nothing. Well, it happened a lot. I looked over to the side of my computer desk. The dice sword I'd bought yesterday was still there. It was close enough that I could grab it at any time. It hadn't glowed at all for what it was worth. I was hoping that at some point it would transform into an awesome weapon like the one Senna had. On the monitor, Grimm's avatar had just leveled up. My Nightheart was max level, so he wouldn't level up again. As I rubbed my tired eyes, I wondered if it was time to make a third character after Lizelet. I found myself thinking about experience points. There was something you saw a lot in video games, but the way I saw it, there were experience points in the real world too. When I'd started ESA, I'd become a completely clueless newbie, but now I was Baselord's famous lightning-fast Nightheart, the game's ultimate warrior. I'm like 90% sure that band was the real sword, and he gave it away. So for instance, Was it possible that some of the person inside me's experience points had been reset somehow? Maybe that's why I'd forgotten things that I should have known. Maybe that's where the weird inconsistencies in my memories had come from. Like with Shogun or the Demon Girl. Or you have a serious problem. Before I'd lost my experience points, that is the person inside me, had used the nickname Shogun in chat. Maybe the Demon Girl Rimi had been a big part of my life too, but I wasn't a friendless otaku. No, that was going too far. But maybe before, I'd had some kind of incredible power that would have let me fight the Demon Girl. I wondered if I was the only person who could come up with an idea like that. Not that it really seemed that strange to me. Humans could only ever judge things by standards they created for themselves. Did that mean it was possible that I, and not just me, but everybody else in the world was wrong about everything? When I was little, I'd gone to the dentist and they'd said to me, "You did a great job." Not crying when it hurt so much. But then I'd felt kind of proud for enduring the pain, like I'd done something special. But looking back, they were probably judging how much pain I was in by looking at how bad the cavity was. But maybe the same level of pain was really bad for some people and not so much for others. Maybe the way people felt things or sensed things were totally different. Take giving birth, for instance. I'd seen a lot of people online, for instance, saying that women could handle the pain, but men couldn't. What about marathon runners? Maybe what made them special wasn't their stamina, but the way they could endure pain. Or maybe just take S&M. Some people enjoyed receiving and some people enjoyed giving it. Yeah. Maybe everybody had different ways of experiencing their senses in different levels. Their ways of experiencing their senses in different levels that they could endure. Maybe the toothaches and headaches that I sometimes had to put up with were a level of pain beyond what an ordinary person could handle. And if I could pass that pain to them somehow, they'd die on the spot from shock. All this speculation left me with a selfish delusion that I was somehow special. But he was like so close to saying something that was accurate and right. So close. So close.
特殊な人間か。っていうか、何を大げさな。
Yeah, I denied it, but I'm sure there was a delusion everybody shared. Every man wants to be the strongest in the world. Everybody wants to think they're special, chosen. They want to believe a dramatic future filled with adventure is waiting for them, like on TV or in the movies. The desire to be a hero, I guess you could call it. It was childish, really. Of course, I had the same desire. Maybe it was my destiny in life to defeat the Demon Girl. Of course, if someone actually told me to do it, I'd have several conditions. I'd need cheat codes, obviously, like God mode for one thing, or invincibility. I didn't want to be scared or get hurt. Scarred, maybe? Or get hurt? No, it is scared. Yeah, I'm just talking about cheats. If I couldn't have that, in other words, right now, I would absolutely refuse. Is that Greg? Greg's in the chat, in the YouTube chat. I used to have the chat on screen, but I broke it. I don't know how to fix it. Which meant that if a person inside me's experience points had been... What? Don't, no! I didn't read that. If the person inside me's experience point had been reset, I might have been at a big disadvantage. Yeah, Greg's in the chat. I think you joined very close. It feels like the end of a chapter is coming up soon. I was almost late today. Maybe staying up till dawn to play games before school day was a mistake. I had to run to make it in time. This guy only goes to school, as he says it, 2.5 times a week. So 2 one week and then 3 the next, and vice versa. He's basically getting minimum attendance to pass. When I arrived outside my classroom, I paused to catch my breath. I didn't want to do anything to attract attention from my classmates. Being late was a potentially fatal mistake. If any DQNs took an interest in me, my life was over. DQNs being degenerate. But he just believes everybody's a degenerate. I slowly walked into the classroom. My head was pointed towards the ground and I avoided looking at anyone. As a teacher, how do you feel about him coming in 2.5 times a week? I mean, if someone came in, I don't want to talk about it. Actually, I can't. I'll tell you personally. Of course, I didn't give anyone a cheery good morning. I tried to make myself as invisible as possible as I headed for my seat. That's how I always was, right? That's what he said, right? That's how I always did things. Same shit. Like usual, I reached my seat without any issues and sat down. I quickly put my head on the desk. Now I'd be safe for the rest of the homeroom. Or so I thought, until I was lightly tapped on the back. Is it his brew? Yeah, it is.
今週は3回も学校来てんじゃねえか。真面目だな。
3 whole times this week. You're turning into a teacher's pet. Yeah, for real. Mitsumi again, I sighed, but it wouldn't be my right to ignore it. I began to raise my head and stopped. My hand had stopped. Was this Mitsumi? Really Mitsumi? 2 days ago I'd called him like the demon girl had told me, but something had been very wrong. He'd acted like the demon girl was in our class. That was impossible. Maybe the demon girl had brainwashed him, or maybe he'd become somebody else entirely.
おい、どうした？早くも爆睡モードか？
What's wrong? You're in sleep mode already? A loud electronic noise echoed through the classroom. I felt a slight vibration near my chest. It was my phone. Damn it, why now of all times? What kind of idiot would call at a time like this? And why was it playing the ringtone when I'd set it to vibrate? Maybe I'd messed up the settings.
鳴ってるぞ、タク。
I knew that. Should I answer now? But if I did, Mitsumi would know that I wasn't asleep. I didn't like answering the phone anyway. And if I didn't answer though, it would annoy the rest of the class. Having my phone's ringtone drown out the rest of the classroom was bad. I needed to stay invisible. This was really bad.
おい、出ないのか？マジで寝てる？
But now I'd missed my chance. I couldn't move. Suddenly the sound of vibration stopped. It must have gone to voicemail. I let out a sigh of relief, being careful not to let Mitsumi hear me. But I was glad I'd learnt how to set up
なあ、タ
voicemail.
ク。相手は誰だ？まさか女か？この前一緒に帰ったあのメガネの子だろ。そうなんだろ？
Who the... He answered the phone? I'm already attracting too much attention because of the phone call. Please just leave me alone. Was Mitsumi always this annoying? He was always too friendly, but he hadn't been this annoying, right?
やめなよ。
That's the voice of the demon girl. Inverted commas. That voice, it was coming from right next to
そっと
Mitsumi.
しておいてあげたら、大臣。
And
なん
she
だか
called him
疲れて
Daichin.
る
It
み
is
た
the
いだ
same.
し。
She was in the classroom acting like she
どう
belonged
せ
here.
ゲームのやりすぎだろ。お前、タクに甘すぎるぜ。
だって大臣は女の敵だし。
Well, you're an enemy to
そう
women
いう人
everywhere.
には優しくしません。
So I'm not nice to you, that's all. He do be a dog. She was talking like she belonged here. She was fitting in like she belonged here. I was too scared to look up. I didn't even want to admit that that girl was there.
ま、別にお前に優しくしてもらわなくても、俺には優しくしてくれる女はたくさんいるんだよ。
だからそういう発言が良くないんだってば。彼女さんが聞いたら泣くよ。今の大臣の彼女が誰だかわかんないけど。
This man is a player of note. They're still just talking over this man's head
ほら、
when they
チャ
think
イ
he's
ム鳴った
sleeping.
先生来るよ。
Had the demon girl really been my classmate? No, that was impossible. She wasn't here 2 days ago. Mitsumi was the only one who talked to me that day, and I hadn't come yesterday. Tank the hit. Now she was here today. How had she wormed her way in? And awake he was. As the homeroom chime rang, everybody headed back to their seats. I fearfully looked up, trying to see as much as I could without moving my head. I wanted that voice to be a hallucination, and for that to happen, I needed to prove she wasn't in the room. I didn't see her. I didn't see the girl. Maybe it was a hallucination. My seat was in the 5th row. There were 9 rows in all. She wasn't in the seats in front of me. Did that mean she was behind me? But I didn't look back. I couldn't do something that would attract so much attention. Damn it, this was so frustrating. Was she in the room, or wasn't she? I didn't feel the prickling on my neck. Nobody was looking at me. I couldn't sense anybody's gaze. Was she here? Was she not here? Which? I stared down at my desk trying to see if I could sense her somehow. Then I heard the sound of the teacher coming into the room. I forgot their name. It was Tsujaki or Tsukada or something. I think. It was the phys ed teacher, and he was a huge meathead, but he didn't yell or do any physical punishment either. If anything, he was kind of a teacher who could take a joke. But there was a mild murmur of surprise going up and down the classroom, but I was too busy thinking about the demon girl to worry about it. How the hell was I supposed to sense anybody? This wasn't a manga. Was I just stupid? Yes, you are. You have a transfer student joining us today. The teacher spoke in a whisper. So that's what the fuss was about. I couldn't hear the transfer student's voice. Was she really here? I took a glance at the front of the room. Okay, so this little screen, right? This little screen right here. I can choose positive delusion, no delusion, or negative delusion. The problem is, positive delusion, for some reason, always just makes it sexual. Now, chat. Are we going positive, negative, or nothing? Left, right, or negative? Yeah. Kind of deserves it. She was really tiny. She might have been smaller than Nanami. She looked kind of weak and timid in a moe sort of way. She was pretty cute for a make him suffer. Fuck. Carrot is on that. Absolutely on that. Positive delusion because sexy. I missed it. Greg, shut the fuck up. You want this girl. You want me to do... Listen to what you're saying. This girl that is on screen right now is the one that you want a sexy delusion to happen of. Come on. Come on. You can't hide behind an alias. It's your real name. And I clicked on nothing. You see? This is what happens. We're just gonna get reality. Because I ain't doing that. I should have made him suffer, to be honest. But he doesn't need to get any false information about this girl. She's already nervous, man. I don't want him to like freak out and freak her out. The transfer student bowed silently and started to walk towards me. Her seat would be 4 rows behind me. I thought about pretending to follow her with my eyes as she walked so I could look back and see who was there. That's what I'm thinking! But if I did, I'd stand out a lot. Some DQN might see me and say, don't stare at the transfer student just because she's cute. Then they try to beat me up. Valid delusion. What should I do, turn around or wait until homeroom ended? My head dropped as I squeezed my fist tightly. It was no good. I didn't have the courage. If I turned around and saw the girl... This person is like me. I could hear her speak. The transfer student passed by me. Huh? The next thing I knew, I was looking up. What the fuck is in your hands? The transfer student stopped for just a moment as she walked by my desk and she didn't look towards me. She was holding what looked like a giant iron plate. Oh, never mind. She's holding nothing. I blinked and it was gone. What was that? Was I seeing? Okay, so the more delusional I make him, the more he sees the weapons. So maybe I should just make him mad delusional, but just all negative to make him suffer. She quickly passed by my desk. She got a big ass sword. That didn't look like no sword. That looked like a guillotine. What was that? Was she talking to me? What was she suddenly talking to me? More Delulu, yeah. Like me? I'm glad we're in the same class. Had we ever met before? No, I don't remember her face at all. But there's nothing in my past involving a long-forgotten childhood friend either. Nothing out of an H game. Maybe I was finally starting to get popular. No. Was the transfer student with the demon girl? If so, the net was closing in even tighter. It would get harder and harder to run away. Homeroom came to an end, and as I tried to figure out the answers to the new doubts that were rising in my mind, There were 5 minutes until first period started. Misumi was already on his way to the new girl's desk. He was evidently aiming to start hitting on her on the first day. My other classmates were all curious about her as well. The classroom was a lot noisier than usual. On the surface, it was a peaceful, ordinary day. But to me, it felt like I was in the middle of an enemy camp. My heart was pounding so hard and wouldn't calm down. My whole body felt tense, and it took a lot of courage just to move a single finger. I was fighting the impulse to turn around with the knowledge that doing so was suicide. Well, again, vastly over. Someone said his name. My breathing almost stopped. My mind went blank. The voice was right behind me. She was here after all. She was right here. See, that's why I don't stream with a face cam, because you don't know how much I turn around when I see these things happen. It makes me uneasy. You don't look so good. Are you okay? Run, run. I tried to, but my legs were shaking too much to stand up. As I sat there frozen, the demon girl, Rimi Sakihata, came around to my front. You're soaking with sweat. Did you catch a cold? Just like she had 2 days ago, she sounded worried about me. Just like she had 2 days ago, she offered me a floral-scented handkerchief. I didn't take it. Instead, I wiped the sweat away with my hands. Oh. I couldn't even look at her. I could hear in her voice that she was smiling though. Rimi crouched down and put her hands on the desk, resting her head on them to look at me. She was looking at my face again. I looked away as fast as I could. Damn it, was she just going to let me escape no matter what? Or was she not going to let me escape no matter what? My heart was about to burst from fear. Somebody saved me. What is she even talking about? A transfer student. She whispered something to you when she passed by your desk. Rimi was still smiling. But was I imagining it, or did her voice sound like she was interrogating me? All I'm saying is Josh did say it was the pink hair. He might have a point. But you weren't interested in real girls. Were you lying about that? What do you care? Was she trying to find out my personal information so she could threaten me or something? No, I wasn't into 3D girls. That was something I was always clear about. A freezing chill ran down my spine. More sweat was pouring down my forehead even though I'd just wiped it away. Was that a threat? Or was she telling me to join her? Or was she just trying to act moe and seduce me so she could set me up in a trap? Alarm bells were going off in my mind. I couldn't say another word to the demon girl or I was doomed. Didn't even think about it. I just leapt out of my chair and ran out of the classroom, tripping over the other students' desks as I went. I had a full-on breakdown. Quick save. On the stairs. If Misumi falls down the stairs... Actually, I'm not going to talk it into existence. Wait, did I just take away my quick save? They did take away my quick save. I ran straight up the stairs to the... Oh, because I just quick saved. I ran up the stairs of the school building onto the empty roof. He's getting hit on and is tweaking? Yeah, but that's real though. That's like the least delusional thing that's happened to him. The girl didn't seem to be following me. But still, I couldn't relax. I decided to crouch down and hide behind something. My knees were shaking and I was amazed I'd managed to run like this. Maybe that was just a sign of how desperate I'd been. Yeah, look up at the sky. I couldn't take any more of this reality. Even that dye sword I'd bought turned out to be useless. I couldn't take it to school. It would stand out too much. I'd let my guard down. When Misumi had told me that Rimi was our classmate 2 days ago, I'd thought it was a lie or a delusion. But she'd really become a classmate. There was no sense in trying to figure out how she'd done it. She was a demon after all. She could do things that humans couldn't. But maybe she brainwashed the class, maybe even all the teachers. I couldn't go to school and couldn't go to the hospital. Yua had been at Cafe and Shogun had found me online. Her servants were getting closer and closer to me, and they were launching constant psychological attacks too. You see, this is different now that we know that he actually is Shogun and that Yua isn't crazy. So, how? That's all I want to know is how. That's the only reason I'm playing is I want to know how. It's got me hooked. Maybe I'd do better to just not leave the base. There were too many enemies outside in reality. They were constantly threatening my peaceful life. I looked up at the... Fuck! I double-clicked. Okay, what did it say? I looked up at the blue sky where the white clouds were flying freely, blown by the wind. If only I could be one of those clouds. Oh, okay. About 3 hours passed. He always naps for 3 hours. I spent the whole time silently crouched on the ground for now. Nobody seemed to be following me. Only after that I was able to relax. The problem was, what did I do now? Somebody was sure to come here to eat during lunch. Maybe my best option would be to run out of school and back to the base during 4th period. It would screw up my schedule, but I didn't have anywhere near the courage I need if I wanted to go back to class with a demon girl waiting. My bag was still there, but I'd just have to forget about it. The only things in it were books anyway. My important stuff like my wallet and key were all in my uniform pocket, right? I got worried and double-checked. Wallet, key, phone. Don't forget vape. Wallet, key, phone. They were all there. Only then did I remember that someone had called me earlier. It had really freaked me out when it happened. Not as much as when Remy spoke to me though. Who could it be? The only person who could possibly want to call me would be my family. Or the police. It was most likely Nanami, right? She didn't care about whether she was bothering me or not. Who else would know that number? Oh, I also told it to those detectives. If it was them, maybe I should have picked up. We never did discuss exactly how they were going to send police officers to guard the base. The LCD showed the number of the person who'd called. It didn't look like it was Nanami. I noticed I had a voicemail too. Did I recognize the number from somewhere? I decided to check my call history. It's the same number that called him before, I'm pretty sure. Okay, negative. We finally get to do it. Okay, negative. Only 5 calls there. In other words, only 5 times that someone called me since I'd bought my phone. 3 of them were from Nanami. What about the other 2? The other one was from 5 days ago, and the one just now. Since the number wasn't in my contacts, it wasn't showing up as a name. They were both from the same number, 03X733X991. X's are there so that they can't actually link it to a real phone number. If they left a message, it must mean that they really wanted to talk to me. And so, it's going to be fucked up because we chose negative delusion. There's the scene. Let's see how it's gonna go. There's the waviness. Couldn't hurt to listen to a message, right? You'd be fucking wrong. It's Yua.
ごめんなさい。突然お電話しちゃって。ただ、どうしてもお話ししたいことがあって。
Why did I negative delusion this?
セイラちゃんの新しいフィギュア、私も買いました。西条くんのおかげです。ありがとうございました。とっても可愛いんですけど、ちょっとエッチですね。買うときすごく恥ずかしかったです。あ、そうそう。今週のブラチュー見ました？すごい展開でしたね。私見ながらずっとドキドキしちゃって。この多重人格者。
Yeah, I was gonna. You schizophrenic? What? Criminal? Atone for your crimes. I won't let you get away. Jeez, that took a turn real quick. I knew it was just a delusion, and I still felt threatened. It was totally possible that Yua could have gotten my number from somewhere and called me. I didn't really want to listen to the message, but after using a delusion to simulate the worst possible scenario, I was ready to at least try listening to it. I don't like that I used the delusion and he said that he used the delusion, but I guess that is technically correct, but that isn't... Okay. I shook off my desperation and played the call. I looked around a bunch of times to make sure the demon girl wasn't anywhere nearby and put the phone up to my ear.
こちらは留守番電話サービス線1件目10月17日金曜日午前8時28分の伝言です。
なんぞこれ。
It seemed to be playing somewhere far off in the distance. The caller might have been standing near a traffic light. The song was called Turianse, by the way. A lot of people knew the melody, but not knew the lyrics. Probably. I knew them, for what it's worth. I learned them in elementary school. I didn't remember them completely, but they went something like this. Don't tell me he's gonna start singing out loud, please. I'm not singing this, by the way. I'm just letting it play. These lyrics are fucked. The hell? That can't be the words. And now it sounds like an ambulance. Sounded like the way back is beep boop beep boop. It sounded like an ambulance or something. It was probably a coincidence, but still it was creepy. I don't. Just after the melody cut off, I heard what sounded like a loud buzzer. The volume was so loud I yanked the phone away from my ear. I'm tweaking. You said bro's tweaking. I'm tweaking. Please let us pass through. What narrow path is this? This is the most narrow path of Tenjin. Please let us pass through. None may pass through, but that have business here. We've come to offer this talisman for our child's 7th birthday. The going is easy, and then it sounded like the way back is beep boop, as in like the way back is to die. Please let us pass through. None may pass through, but have business here. We've come to offer this talisman for our child's 7th birthday. The going is easy. Didn't? It sounded like the way back is beep boop. Probably a coincidence. Yeah, I don't think so. I fearfully put the phone back to my ear, but the message was over. What was that about? Didn't feel like I'd heard the earth rumbling at the end too. It felt like I'd heard the earth rumbling at the end. The buzzer was totally different than the traffic signal. If it was that loud, they must have brought it right up to the phone. A prank call. My heart was racing. Had I done something to piss somebody off? Who'd even made this call? I had their number so I could call back if I wanted to, but I didn't have the courage. There was nothing I could do about it. And anyway, I was still in the middle of something much worse happening to me. Bro heard an ambulance on his phone call with some cryptic message. And he's like, yeah, I'm in a much worse situation. This girl is trying to talk to me at school. Holy shit, how is this? How am I going to survive? I put my phone in my pocket and left the school, watching my surroundings as carefully as I possibly could. Back on the streets. In the schoolyard. Takumi Nishijo's alma mater, Kitazawa Elementary School No. 2, was 5 minutes away from a privately operated train station. Yasuji Ban had the idea of talking to his old teacher, but when he called the school, he found they'd passed away. Oh, his old teacher. Yeah. The one that died in the bus accident. He also, by the way, after that incident, pretended to be mute For like years. He just did not speak. And in his own mind, he was like, yeah, I'm not speaking because I'm trying to get back at my parents for not letting me go on the field trip. And if I went on the field trip in the first place, then the people wouldn't have died. But they were happy that he didn't go on the field trip because he didn't die and the dad did. And so many people were injured in the bus crash. But he just went mute. And the only person that figured that out was his doctor that is now out for overwork. So he has no one to talk to about that. Nobody remembers that. He just believes that he was faking his PTSD. Anyway. Instead, he opted to talk to the person he'd spoke to on the phone, the current head teacher, the man named Kamio. He and his partner had come here to do just that. It was a Saturday and the school was closed. Ban and Sua were standing in front of the school building looking at it. It was a very eye-catching picture drawn on its outer walls. Ban wasn't the artistic type, so it was beyond him what the thing might be. It looked like a spiral, but it changed into several different colors from top to bottom, so it also kind of felt like a rainbow. Ban waved his fan as he stared at it. His partner Sua pushed the call button on the gate. Ban suddenly looked around and felt somebody was watching him. It was an unpleasant, clingy sort of gaze. He struck a little pose. He looked stylish and cool, he thought.
先輩、何変なポーズしてるんすか？裏門の方に通用口があるんで、そっちに回ってくれって。
Don't trust it. Ban gave up on his pose and sighed. He started to walk. It didn't take long to find the teacher's office. The back gate led to the school's rear entrance, and a turn off the hallway inside took you there. There were, of course, no children inside the school. It may have just been the shiny linoleum. Linoleum? Felt cooler than it did outside. They're not going to tell me what linoleum is. I don't know what linoleum is. There were 3 teachers in the teacher's office. One of them stood up and bowed as the detectives entered. His rapidly graying hair was parted and he had a pleasant smile on his face. This was Kamio. Ban and Sua brought over their IDs at almost precisely the same time, giving brief introductions before getting to the point. It was Sua's job to do the talking.
ここの卒業生である西条匠君について教えていただきたいんですが。
彼のことは印象に残っています。私は担任ではなかったから詳しくとなると無理ですが、それでも構いませんか。
Sua nodded and opened his notebook and started taking down a
西条
memo.
君はどんな子だったんですか？
Plastic-ish flooring. Oh, okay, cool.
難しい子だと聞いていました。特殊だと。
Special.
特殊？
本来なら他の生徒に混ざって勉強するのはとても困難な。
Is he schizophrenic?
病気を患っていたらしく。
具体的には？
How specifically?
そこまで私が言ってしまっていいのかどうか。ご家族なり、医師なりに聞いていただけますか。
Gotta ask his doctor, but his doctor is injured. Wait! Wait. What if the person calling him... Okay, I'm probably wrong. But that phone call could have been a premonition of his doctor's death, if I'm looking at this scene correctly. Almost all the schools were like these days. They didn't want any trouble. They'd refused to do anything that could result in an angry phone call from a parent and made the cop's job a lot harder.
担任の先生はなんで亡くなったんです？
事故です。遠足の最中、乗っていたバスが陥没した道路に。
あ、自分それ知ってるっす。ニュースでやってたっすよね。
Don't smile about it. The guy died.
子供たちは怪我をしただけで、幸い命は助かったのですが、斉藤先生だけが犠牲になってしまい、
西条君もその事故に巻き込まれた。
Kamio shook his head
あの子
softly.
は当日欠席していて、バスには乗っていませんでした。
欠席の理由は？
病が悪化したと聞いたような覚えがありますが。
I remember hearing that his illness took a sudden turn for the worse. Okay. This is fucked because he was perfectly fine. His parents said that he wasn't allowed to go out. According to his memories. his parents said they can't go, it's not possible for someone like him. But they never said what that was. They also spoke about the fact that there was a guy in a black suit always in their meetings, like the doctor's office. Like whenever he had an appointment with the doctor, there was a guy in a black suit. The black suits have been investigating the crime scene under the guise of cleaning. So, and he had a dream about everyone on the bus dying. Specifically his teacher, but he had a dream about that, and then it actually happened. And he was drawing about it when it came up on the news. And he felt nothing towards them. He was happy that his teacher had died. Is he psychic? Is he evil? Or is he just a dick? Or is he actually mentally ill? That's what I want to find out. Bart vaguely remembered the incident too. He'd seen the media standing outside the house of the one boy who hadn't been injured for days on end, trying to get an interview. The boy had never shown himself, however.
あれは悲しい事故だったんですよ。
For some reason, Kamiya repeatedly seemed to put emphasis on the word accident, inverted commas. Back in the base. Having a quick chat with Grim before diving into ESO is becoming a daily routine of mine. We never talked about anything specific. We'd swap information about the latest at-chan threads, or talk about naughty stuff, or our latest favorite manga or the anime we'd seen the other day, stuff like that. Oddly enough, we didn't talk much about ESO. We'd do more than enough ESO chat when we were playing after this. Oh, here we go, back in the chat. Have you heard anything about weird pranks lately? KWSK. Short for Kuashiko, or give me the details. 2000s era netizens when they wanted more information on something. Naughty stuff? Yeah, this man has like... I mean, look at the figurine on the desk, Greg. Look at the figurine on the desk. This man went and bought this and was freaking the fuck out at the fact that he could take its clothes off. Maybe now you'll know why we don't like this guy. It was something I heard. I don't know if it's really something people are doing. Night Art is his gaming profile. But they play weird noises on your cell phone. Did they say naughty stuff with a Moe voice? Lol. And Grim, we don't know anything about Grim, except that he plays this game. And likes gore. What kind of H game is that, lol? I mean, if that was it, I'd love to get pranked, lol. So what kind of eyes, whose eyes are those, is it? Grim kept using that phrase. Instantly I felt sick. And then the last thing is that whose eyes are those was the title that he wrote on his childhood essay about how he felt like he was being looked at by God because he always felt like someone was staring at him. So it's been freaking him out that it's been coming up all the time because it's the literal title of a childhood essay that he wrote and he's never told anybody about it. The sentence didn't even make sense. Was the phrase funny enough that he had to force it in everywhere? Didn't think so. At least, if anything, it was stupid. But I couldn't start an argument until I asked him about the prank. I decided to just put up for it for now. Like the sound of some nasty otaku jerking it, lol. That would be awful. That would be awful. Actually, it's Turianse. That's a song, right? The one they play on crosswalks, yeah. Yep. And then suddenly it changed into this bzzz noise. It's really, really loud. You ever heard of a prank like that? I mean, it sounds like something at-channers would do. That strange noise had been left on my phone yesterday. I didn't know who was behind it, and I was pretty unnerving, so I decided to try and ask Grim. It was just a prank, I could forget about it. Huh? Why wasn't Grim responding? Good question. Hello? You fall asleep? There was no answer. It was rare for Grim to pass out on me during a chat. It never happened before, actually. But if it happened, it happened. I'd see him later in ESO and just talk to him just when I was about to get up out of my seat. Back. I ran a search on 8chan about that prank you're talking about. That was what he was up to. But that would mean even Grim didn't know about it. He usually knew everything. Nobody was talking about it though. Not on 8chan, but on the... Nobody was talking about it though. Not just on 8chan, but on the rest of the internet. So it must be somebody who has a personal grudge against me then. I was starting to get really curious about who it could be, but I didn't have the courage to call them back. I suddenly had an idea. If I knew the phone number, I could have somebody else call it for me. Real, true, maybe Nanami or Misumi. Those would be the two safest bets. No, Misumi was brainwashed by the demon girl. He wasn't a good choice. Nanami was my little sister, so it would be easy to ask her. She'd get really mad later, probably, but that wasn't my problem. It was the least she could do after all the bullshit she put me through. Yeah. Get your sister to call this suspicious number that's prank calling you. Your younger sister. Bitch ass motherfucker. I said thanks to Grim and ended the chat, promising to meet up with him later in Iso. My stomach was starting to rumble. I was hungry. Did I have any instant ramen somewhere? I looked but didn't find any. I'd have no choice but to go to the convenience store. I keep quick saving like I have control over the story. It's a visual novel, but still, I'm scarred for life from all those other times. The sun had already set. I would have preferred not to be out at night if I could avoid it. 2 a.m. or something. Nah, no way. And there's his fucking laugh. Hold on a second. Gotta check on the stream because it's freezing. Okay, there we go. Still, it was way too quiet. You couldn't hear any of the noises you usually heard in the city. The town felt different somehow. The last time this happened, he saw a murder happen. Okay, surely. I made it to the convenience store in front of Shinsen Station. Even the area around the station was completely devoid of people. I was starting to get more than a little scared. When something you expect to be there suddenly vanishes, it makes you feel like you've been sucked into some strange other world. Normally I avoided any interaction with other people, but today I longed to see somebody's face. I ran into the convenience store. There should be at least a cashier here, I thought. I looked around. Delusion time! I'll pause it even, so that I don't fuck up this time. Are we going positive, negative, but we're going with something? Are we going positive or negative? That is the question. I have no clue what this scene could do. Like none whatsoever. Positive or negative? Come on. Let's have a look-see. Do we still want him to suffer? Evil time? Evil time. Carrot says evil time. There was nobody. Evil time or sexy time? That's what I've learned these two things to be. Evil time and sexy time. I think it's gotta be evil time. No customers, no employees.
Masaka.
That's not the laugh, by the way. That was impossible, right? The cashier must just be in the back. If I took my stuff up to the register, they'd come out right away. I forced myself to take my time picking out a boxed meal from the refrigerated section. I even pretended to look at the manga magazines before finally putting my meal on the counter next to the cash register. Here comes the negative delusion. Nobody came out from the back. I started to have an awful premonition. This wasn't right. Had I wandered into some place I really shouldn't be? Here we go. Oh, delusion time. As I stood in front of the register, I took a quick look outside. I couldn't see a single person moving on the other side of the glass doors, but I could see a silhouette, partially hidden by the shadow of the condo buildings across from me. The silhouette quickly hid, but still, I could see it clearly. There was something long and black in its hands, like a tube. Was that a sniper rifle? It would either be a police force mobile unit, or maybe the special assault team. I hadn't seen anybody because the police had sealed off the area, but why? Wait. I hadn't seen anybody because the police had sealed off the area, but why? What? When did the police seal off the area? And also... Okay, no, he's delusional. It's fine. It's a delusion. Suddenly, I had a shocking realization. I quickly looked around the store before hiding myself behind a shelf. Could there be a hostage situation happening in the store? Maybe there was a criminal in the back room who'd taken the cashier hostage, and maybe that criminal was the one responsible for the New Gen murders. Oh no, I crouched down with my head in my hands. Why had I come to some place so dangerous? What were the police doing? If they had this area sealed off, why didn't they stop me before I came in? Was there any way to get out? If I stayed here, they'd take me hostage too. Oh, what's happening? Fortunately, I hadn't run into the criminal yet. But if they were locking themselves up in the back room, now was my chance to run. I was so scared my knees were shaking, I could barely even stand up. Still, I somehow managed to stand up and slowly head towards the door when... Attention criminal. It started with a really stereotypical message, the kind you didn't even want to see on police procedurals anymore. A policeman was yelling into a microphone outside the store. I was so startled that I hid behind the shelf again. What? It was like something out of a cheesy old movie. Didn't they have any hostage negotiators or something? That was short. Just 30 seconds? Wait, force? Were they going to put the hostage in danger? If somebody tried that in modern Japan, wouldn't the media crucify them? What are the cops thinking? I held my breath and stayed as still as I could. My heart was pounding really fast. It felt like I was about to burst. If the police did come in, the store would turn into a war zone. I'd be caught up in it. Maybe I'd get hit by a stray bullet and die. Please no. The criminal seemed to be doing nothing at all. The inside of the store was dead quiet. I was starting to get mad. Why had the criminal done something so stupid? Come on, just surrender. Surrender. Or something might just happen to me, too. I peeked out from the shelf and looked outside again. Shockingly, there were a full team of SAT snipers out there, plainly visible, pointing their rifles at me. Whose idea was it to have the negative delusion? I blame the carrot. I quickly pulled my head back. The police seemed intent on shooting the killer. Was that even legal in Japan? I couldn't believe it. 10 seconds! No way, come on, please stop. I looked around helplessly before I happened to look down at my hands. For some reason, my hand was holding a knife. It was stained red too. This was blood. I was confused. When did I get this knife? Where did it even come from? I heard a moan right next to me. The cashier was lying there. It was a dull, unimpressive looking college kid. His hands were bound behind his back and his mouth was sealed with tape. He was staring at me, his eyes flush with terror. Why was he looking at me? Don't look at me like that. You're looking at me like I'm the criminal. Wait, the criminal? Am I the criminal? No, it's not me. I didn't do anything. No. No. Fire. Police don't act like that. Why would they scream fire anyway? Sheesh. This wasn't an old war movie or something. Several minutes had passed while I was lost in my delusion. There was no sign of any employee at all. So you see what I mean with this game, okay? I know it was a delusion. I was aware it was a delusion. But it made me think it wasn't a delusion because that's what happened last time with the pink-haired girl. But what if it was a delusion and every time I click that button, I turn into Shogun? And if I click that button and turn into Shogun, then he kills someone and the only way that he gets reset is by being killed himself. Overthinkers should not play this game. I wanted to believe that the cashier was just asleep, so I waited another 5 minutes. But there was still no sign of the cashier or anybody else. There wasn't even any sound. I finally got so scared, I just put the thing back on the shelf and left. It's still fucking quiet. I came to the railway crossing right next to the station. I could see the Shinsen station platform clearly from here. There was no way a station platform could be empty, I told myself. It was just impossible. But of course, there was nobody there. I decided to wait for a train to come. If a train stopped at the station, people would surely get off. And even if nobody did, I could see somebody in the train as it went past. I waited 10 minutes and there was no sign of any train. Sounds like South Africa. I tried to tell myself that there might have been an accident or something that had thrown the schedule off, but there was not a single person on the platform. Only then did I realize the seriousness of the situation. It didn't make sense. This wasn't right. I decided to head to Shibuya Station. There was always somebody there. I was sure of that. The area around Shibuya Station was always busy 24 hours a day. I couldn't take the fear anymore, so I started to run. Also, Carrot, weird request. I know you're going to Japan. When you do go to Japan, the only thing I want is actual pictures of the city at night. I don't care about the scenery. I don't care about gifts. I just want to see what the city looks like at night. I ran as fast as I could, even when I started running out of breath. I still didn't stop. I wasn't sure if I'd ever run so hard in my entire life. As I ran, I wished that this was all some awful dream, but it wasn't. My heart and lungs were in so much pain I thought they'd explode, but there was no way this pain could just be a dream. I was surprised at how intense my breathing was, but no matter how much air I took in, the pain didn't go away. I headed down Dongenzaka Hill and finally got within sight of the 107 building. By that point, my legs were barely moving, my body felt incredibly heavy. But I forced my legs to move forward. I didn't even have strength left to look around me. Sorry, I zoned out. Okay, cool. That sounds great. My entire consciousness was forced on getting me to Scramble Crossing, the symbol of Shibuya. Almost there, just a bit more. I just had to make it past the 107. Then I'd be in the busiest place in Japan, the place where everyone mixes together. When the walk sign changes, that's why it's called Scramble Scramble. Yes, as he is running. There ain't nobody here, boss. There ain't not a single person here. Empty. The whole of Scramble Crossing and Shibuya Station were empty. A world without sound, a world that was dead. The air around the crossing was always filled with a flood of sound, but today it was ruled by silence. All I could hear was the sound of my own panting. I fell to my knees in the middle of the wide road. I couldn't take another step, but more than that, the shock had drained all the strength from my body. Now, if I have to make a prediction again, because I love making predictions, it's the only way I can play a single-player game, this motherfucker is now gonna hear that bloody walkway sound. And then there's gonna be an ambulance, and it's gonna be the first sound that he hears. And he's either gonna be passed out on the side of the road, or he's gonna get hit by the ambulance, and I don't know which one. But I feel like that's what's gonna happen. And I haven't, to be frank, I have not played this game. And I don't remember watching the series. If I watched the series, it was before I was 10. In which case, I really should not have been watching it. There was nobody to my left or right, or my back or front. Anyway, it was the busiest time of the week, 7 p.m. on a Saturday. What was going on here? This couldn't be happening. I closed my eyes and put my hands on my head. This was a dream, an illusion. It couldn't be real. Sure, I thought I'd wanted to live a quiet life all by myself. I didn't want to get caught up in anything or have anyone meddle in my plans. But that didn't mean I wanted to be the only person in the world. If there were no other people, who was going to pay my living expenses? There is no way that his first thought about there being no people in the world was, well, fuck, no one's gonna pay for my housing. What? If there's no people in the world, you're not gonna have to pay for housing in the first place. If there were no other people, who's gonna make my meals I got from the convenience store? If there was no other people who was gonna play ESO with me, If there were no other people... Oh, Noiser. Open your goddamn eyes. Please open your eyes. Sound? I heard a sound, it wasn't me. It was a sound someone else made. Someone was here. Someone was close. I felt saved. It was just a random chance that the crossing looked empty. Nobody had actually disappeared. I hadn't been left alone in the world. I was almost ready to cry from sheer relief. I turned around towards the sound. There's a manskap in a wheelchair.
君は
It was a boy in a wheelchair. He was silently sitting there some distance from me, but still in the middle of the road. It was hard to figure out how old he was. If I went just off his height, I would have thought he was in elementary school. He had a hat pulled down over his eyes, making it hard to make out his face, but...
やっと会えたね。
The boy's voice was strangely clear. It was as if he was being whispered into my ear. I actually found myself turning around to check if someone was behind me, but of course nobody was.
これどうなってるんですか?
I asked him.
どうして誰もいないのか?
Why isn't anybody else here?
君は
Do you know why?
知ってるよ。
I do. His voice sounded young, but not like a child.
それより
But more
僕のメ
importantly,
ッセージは
did you get my
受
message?
け取ってくれた?
Message? I don't know what he was talking about.
誰だ? 君は
His wheelchair advanced forward, wheel turning just a little. Might have been an old chair because it made a rusty
そ
creaking
の
sound
目
as it
誰
went.
の目?
Whose eyes are those?
でしょ?
Right? I wasn't sure what to think. Why had this boy suddenly said, whose eyes are those to me? Right here, right now, who was
目
it?
覚めるんだ。早く
Wake up
出
soon.
ないと。
Otherwise,
もっとたくさんの人が
even more people will die.
君は一体
I rubbed my eyes, wiping away my tears. Only then I could finally see his face. Fuck. That is an image. The boy wasn't a boy. His face was wrinkly like an old man. His cheeks were caved in. His eyes sank deep into his skull. Is he like ill? The whites cloudy, and he had no eyebrows. Yet his body was as tiny as a child's.
僕は
I'm Grim.
将軍だよ。
Shogun? But he is Shogun. Okay. This must just be a dream then. It makes sense why there's no people on the road, but still. For a moment I forgot to breathe. My head felt like it had been hit by a hammer. The ground seemed to shake. No, it was my body that was shaking. I put a hand on the asphalt to support myself. What? What had he just said? Shogun. This was Shogun?
忘れないで。
Don't forget. You mustn't run.
逃げちゃいけない。
I looked up and saw that Shogun had already turned away from me. His wheelchair was creaking as he slowly disappeared. It didn't even occur to me to try and follow him or ask more questions. Or to punch him in the face for getting me caught up in this. I wasn't any good at that kind of stuff. My head was starting to hurt. I felt an aching pain in my temples. I stayed on the ground trying to endure the pain. The silent word finally began to fill with static. Who was that voice? Oh! The ringing! I can't do the ringing. The static began to change into a voice. Somebody was putting their hand gently on my shoulder.
邪魔なんだっつうの。
何してんだろうね。
最近の若いもんは
Kids these
なん
days.
かのパフォーマンスじゃないの？
I looked up, still reeling from the headache. So he was... The demon girl Rimi was leaning over me and looking down into my eyes. Her eyes were clear and filled with life. Those eyes stared at me and only me. Again, once again, she'd just shown up out of nowhere.
歩いて。
She put her hands under my arms and tried to help me up, and I screamed and pushed her away. Then I came to my senses and looked around. I was still in the middle of the road, but I wasn't alone anymore. There were people all around me, walking past me without the slightest bit of interest. What is she crying about? Looked like she was about to cry when she looked at me.
私の言うことを聞いて。夜だ!
I screamed. The aching in my head turned into a stabbing pain. I tried to fight through the pain and crawl away from her, to put as much distance between me and her and me as possible.
お前だろお前が僕の心を支配して精神攻撃をこの悪魔めお前なんて剣で殺してベースに帰れば僕には理想
Did she smack him? I felt a sudden shock on my cheek. It stung and I started to feel hot. Rumi had slapped me. Deserved! Save that shit. Smack the shit out of him. This time she was going to kill me. I tried to crawl away as fast as I could, but Rumi easily grabbed my hand. She pulled me close with a strength it was hard to believe a girl could have. She gave him a hug and held me tight. Yeah, she did. Her soft body pressed against me gently. It was so warm and I could smell just the slightest hint of sweat. Her long flowing hair trickled my nose. It was the last thing I expected her to say. I could feel the strength leave my body. It's dangerous to stay here. Her voice sounded a little sad, but I couldn't tell if she was crying. The crosswalk signal's red. I wasn't sure what to think. Wasn't she here to kill me? Why was she saving me? Wasn't that hallucination of people disappearing from Shibuya something she'd forced me to see? Once I'd felt this gentle warmth from her, once she'd held me in her innocent arms, how could I still be so sure? How could I stop myself from thinking that maybe Rimisaki Hata wasn't a demon after all? Was I just a fool? Was I falling for her tricks? The one thing I could be sure of was that I felt so safe and peaceful in her arms. What was this strange feeling? Rimi let go and then put her hands up to my cheeks and looked me in the face. Her eyes were a little red. Please. Just for now, follow me. Okay? I nodded. We were standing in the middle of the now empty crosswalk. People on both sides of the road were staring at us as they waited for the light to change. I could hear laughter starting to bubble up from the crowd. The cars all had their headlights pointing at me and were starting to honk their horns. Rimi held my hands tightly and started to run towards the sidewalk. I followed along, letting her pull me forward. Jesus. We managed to make it through the noise of the horns to the sidewalk. Rimi let out a sigh of release and stopped. She was still holding my hand. Just touching her made me feel calmer and calmer. It made me want to give into the feeling and stay like this forever. Rimi turned towards me. I'm glad you're safe. She looked so happy, I couldn't believe the look on her face might be a lie or an act. But I'd thought of her as my enemy for so long, I'd thought of her as a demon. If I gave in, I'd cease to be me. That's how it felt, at least. She let go.
それにしてもびっくりした。タクが道の真ん中でうずくまってるんだもん。信号が赤になった時はどうなることかと。
She sounded happy. I turned away and started to push through the crowds and walk forward.
帰る。
じゃあ送るよ。具合悪いんでしょ
So long, like 2 days? Yeah. I could hear... Yeah, but you see, we think it's 2 days. But it's probably not 2 days. I could hear her chasing after me, but I shook my head no. The cheerfulness in her voice had vanished. I felt really bad since she had just saved me. So... You are a human being. You can be nice. I just barely managed to squeak the words out. And so we cut again to the police office. I certainly didn't think they'd end up merging all three of the task forces into one. Yasujo Ben sighed bitterly to himself as he looked at the rows of detectives assembled in the Shibuya police station's large conference room. The Inokashira Line Shibuya Station bathroom murder, what the media had taken to calling vampire, had pushed the Shibuya police's available manpower to its absolute limits. And with the three bizarre murders in the same district, it was looking more and more likely that a single culprit was responsible for all of them. Some officer had suggested leaving the Cornelius Tower suicides to the Youth Crime Division, but the media was treating them as a part of New Gen. And they'd take a lot of flack if it seemed like they were leaving it out. It was only natural that HQ would decide to bring the task forces together into one big team. Right now, the new, bigger group was going back over each of the cases individually. There was a big screen at the front of the room showing slides of the crime scenes. Sua had been assigned to give the briefing on them. He and Ban had been up all night frantically going through the case files for all 4 cases. Good luck, kid, Ban said to himself, resting his head in his palm.
コーネリアスタワー集団投身自殺事件の発生は9月7日っす。ニュージェネとマスコミが故障している4つの事件の中では一番最初に発生してます。午後11時半ごろ、渋谷コーネリアスタワー屋上のヘリポートから男女5人が転落。5人は全員未成年の高校生。男が3人、女が2人。ただし5人のうち男女1人ずつだけが同じ学校なだけで、それ以外の3人はいずれも別の学校でした。5人それぞれの爪の間にわずかな肉片が残っており、手のひらに引っかき傷があったことが司法解剖で判明しました。そこから5人は互いに手をつないだ状態で転落したと推測されます。屋上には遺書らしきものはなし。被害者5人は学校帰りに待ち合わせてコーネリアスタワーへ向かったようです。なお、事件性があることを示す根拠としては、コーネリアスタワー屋上が関係者以外立ち入り禁止であったことが挙げられます。事件があった時間、屋上への扉は施錠されており、その扉のドアノブに被害者5人の指紋は付着してませんでした。また5人の遺品からも扉の鍵は見つかっていません。このことから被害者以外の第三者が事件前後にその現場にいた可能性があります。その第三者が扉の鍵を持っており、事件前あるいは事件後に鍵を閉めて立ち去ったという線で捜査を続けています。コーネリアスタワーのホテル従業員全員への聞き取り調査は終了。ほぼ全員にアリバイがありました。今はタワーに入っている企業の社員に話を聞いているところです。被害者たち5人には今のところ自殺する理由は見つかっていません。家族、友人、学校の教師など5人中4人の関係者が口を揃えて自殺する理由などないと断言しています。
Slight change moving to the second case, the murder of the college kid and unborn baby in the Shibuya station tracks. Okay, I didn't give any context about what the murders have been so far, because the previous parts are there to go watch. However, this one is fucked. Like, it's called Pregnant Man. Someone had split this guy's chest open and put a fetus into his stomach, and then sewn him back up.
続いて通称妊娠男事件についてです
They're probably gonna go through it right now.
事件発生は9月19日、通称集団ダイブ事件から12日後。第一発見者は現場近くのカラオケ店店員。遺体発見は午前5時前後。被害者は渋谷区在住の大学3年生近衛千鶴夫21歳。発見された時にはすでに死亡してました。死亡推定時刻は遺体発見の約4時間前。19日、遺体は腹部が不自然に大きく膨れ上がっており、中から胎児が発見されました。
So nasty.
司法解剖の結果、被害者は生きたまま腹部を何者かに切開され、
While he was alive?
胎児を入れられたようです。胎児はすでにその時点で亡くなっていたと思われます。被害者が死亡したのは腹部を縫合された後、縫合した部分をかきむしったり、縫合糸を一部引きちぎった形跡が見られました。
Oh, that is so horrible. I did not know that detail. That is horrible.
胎児は妊娠8ヶ月ぐらいの状態で、母親の体から帝王切開で取り上げられたと考えられます。胎児の母親については今のところ見つかってません。その生死についても不明です。 DNA 鑑定の結果、胎児と被害者には血縁関係はありませんでした。ちなみに胎児の血液型は B 型、被害者の血液型は A 型です。
There do be a shortage of type B blood though. Sua paused to take a breath. Talking so much had tired him out. It looked like giving a presentation in front of this many older detectives was probably nerve-wracking too.
次に第3の事件、丸山町貼り付け殺人事件です。
There was a slight pause before the crucified slide came up. Yeah, that's because it's fucking so hectic. There
こ
it
れ
is.
が現場写真です。
This is a shot of the scene. Yeah, no, this is not the shot of the scene. that we got.
事件発生は9月29日。被害者は太田久志56歳。都東大学。第一発見者は現場のすぐ近くのアパートに住む男性。被害者の死因は絞殺でした。殺害された後で10本程度の釘を使って貼り付けにされていました。見ての通り、遺体には外傷はほとんどありません。
Okay, something changed there because the picture that he got was way messier than this. Like, so the problem is that means that his like delusion is now completely not linked to the case, because his vision of it was that this guy was like completely butchered with stakes. So everything he says to the police is now going to be incorrect.
釘についても貼り付けは一部肉体を貫通しているものもありましたが、基本的にマスコミでは貼り付け、血の惨劇などと謳われてますが、
You see,
血は全くなし。
that's what I'm talking about. It's called the bloody crucifixion. The crucifixion pictures that he got on the internet from himself were completely covered in blood, but now the actual victim had no blood whatsoever.
釘はドイツのクロイツナーゲル社が販売している特徴的な長い十字架のような杭で、犯人が十字架型をあえて選んだということから宗教的な側面からも捜査を進めてます。事件の起きた21時から21時半の間に現場周辺で壁に杭を打ちつける音が数十分続いていたという証言が複数得られました。被害者の死亡推定時刻がほぼそれと同じ時間であることから、おそらく被害者はまた信憑性は怪しいですが、事件現場で私立水明学園の女生徒を見たという証言も上がってます。最後に、井の頭線渋谷駅トイレ殺人事件。通称、事件発生は10月10日。遺体発見は午前5時半ごろ。被害者の身元は今のところ不明。身元を示すような遺留品は一切。死亡推定時刻は前日の午前10時から午後6時。遺体の血液は全て抜かれており、まるでミイラのような状態で放置され、ご存知の通り、この写真が何者かによって撮影され、遺体発見より15分ほど前にインターネットのオークションに出品されており、
Bunkra missed a little as he listened to the explanation. Was this the killer's way of saying that death had become fashion or something? That's chapter 3. That's chapter 3. Right. Now, I'll be honest. I cannot play more than a chapter of this game at a time without feeling like I'm losing my mind. So, I think that's where we're gonna call it today. As per usual, any of the videos are available on the YouTubes if you want to check them out. And I might be back later, but right now my brain needs a break from this game. So to all those that watch, thank you for joining by, and I'll check you next time. Bye bye.